All right, hello YouTube. Welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. I was just mentioning before we went live that it was a bad idea to ever give Peter buttons.
Don't say that, because then I want to push the buttons. You know, it's like one of those things.
I should get like a kill switch on mine that shuts yours off. I wonder if I could do that.
Doubt it.
That would be hilarious. But yeah, welcome. We're here for round table number 155. Yeah, let's go ahead and hit the old intro and get started.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, the Dark Tower series, as well as the extended Stephen King universe, because all things serve the tower, of course.
Serve the bean.
And everything's on one level of the tower or another, so yeah. it all counts. So yeah, we are here for episode 155.
You're Tad. I'm Peter.
Oh yeah, that's true. I guess especially for the audio on screen, it actually shows.
On screen it shows it, but we do have audio listeners.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm Tad.
I'm Peter.
Indeed. See, I'm getting all thrown off here.
Is it because I pushed this button in the YouTube intro?
Yeah, I mean, whether it's attacking children on bridges,
stop it,
or
you stop slandering that boy,
or throwing me off of my my cadences.
Your intro,
you know, that's that's why Billy Bumblers are pests and vermin that infest.
No, they are the ones who control pests and vermin. That's why they keep them in the castles of Gilead,
or ring them like dish rags.
No.
The funny thing is it's still effective to get to you. But yeah, we are now currently 2 days into our past our 9-year anniversary. Dark Tower Palaver's birthday, as it were, is 10/3 or 3/10 if you're outside of the U.S. But that sounds weird to me. But
March 10th. Wait, what?
December 3rd. That's when our first episode was posted. That was 9 years ago.
October 3rd.
Yes. Isn't that what I said?
You said December.
Oh, God damn it.
If you didn't know, Tad had a little bit. No, I'm just kidding.
I wish.
Yeah. Tad didn't. That's why. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I need to get the gears greased a little bit. Go ahead and hand me a ball. Just kidding.
One of these days we should do that.
I don't know. That is kind of a gimmick that, like, I think lesser podcasts tend to do. Not in the Stephen King realm. I've never seen it. But there's always the ones where it's like, oh, we're just a bunch of friends. We're going to get together and drink and record a podcast. And it's usually never good. Like,
it ends with those ones that end up getting clipped where it's like, did you guys know that the earth is flat? It's like, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah. But yeah.
Don't drink in podcasts. I'm going to put that on a bumper sticker.
I also made a post on social media about it, and I believe it was John from Buffalo that responded and said that 9 years in and you're only halfway through book 4.
We didn't start the book clubs right away.
We did.
How soon did we start book clubs?
Within a few months.
Did we really?
Yeah. Now, I will say 8 years because we basically didn't do book clubs in 2017.
2016 off.
17.
Well, it was when the movie was announced. We covered the movie for all of 2016.
We did book clubs in 16.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah, but it was 17. I think we had 2 book clubs that entire year. One was like in February and one was like it was in December. So we basically took an entire year off of book clubs. So 8 years to get halfway through the fourth book. So
Jeez.
yeah, that's pretty awesome. And then before we get into the announcement, or I guess let's get into the intro stuff first real quick. First of all, I want to warn you about spoilers. I guess we should have warned that earlier because there is always a danger of spoilers. If you've not finished the 7 primary books of the Dark Tower series, you may want to cry out this podcast and stick to our book club episodes. In our book clubs, we stay where we're at or before. We don't jump ahead, except for a very, very tiny section at the very end where we cover spoilers. I just have been seeing even online a lot of people that are like first-time readers, and they're like in like the Dark Tower subreddits and stuff, and I'm like, man, that's a dangerous thing.
You're asking for it back then.
Also, I saw someone that mentioned, I know we're in the middle of the intro, but tangents are, of course, a thing.
That's what we do.
Somebody mentioned that they chose that they were not going to read the epilogue in the 7th book, because King tells you not to and stuff. But I was like thinking about it. I'm like, you know what though? Like the conversations, if you get involved in the Dark Tower community, the conversations are pretty much going to spoil that section for you. You know,
Yeah.
I think we've all taken it for granted that like, yeah, theoretically there might be people that never finished that last section.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, ultimately that's.
I almost did until you told me that I missed it. So
I don't know, and it's not to say that necessarily need to change how we're doing things. It was
Yeah.
just an interesting thought because I'd never really considered the people that actually did stop, and it's like, how do you engage with the Dark Tower fandom without like hearing references to the loop or the cycles or whatever else? It's kind of an interesting thing. Maybe you just don't plug into fandom, which is a sad thing for sure.
kind of diving into our history here. Looks like our very first book club was February 3rd, 2016.
Okay, yeah, so it's a few months.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't start until October, so 2015 kind of,
Yeah,
not a full year there.
yeah.
And then in 2016, we did 1, 2,
We were
3,
very heavy round table. I think for the most part we did 2 to 3 round tables for every one book club.
4.
So, but yeah, the rest of the intro is if you want to find the podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasting. You can stream us on Spotify, Amazon Music, or Audible. You can also find us on any classic podcasting service, which nothing against those. I tend to use those more often than not. Then if you want to subscribe, rate, and review us on any of those, we'd appreciate that. And then if you want to join the show live, like so far we have Josh and Mike in the chat. Welcome, gentlemen, as well as some noob named DTP Peter. I don't know. I don't know who that person is.
Kick him out.
I should boot him.
Boot
If you want to join live and be part of the conversation, you can do that over here at youtube.com/DarkTowerPalaver. We go live every fortnight, and you can also go back and watch old episodes, and you can always comment all that kind of stuff if you want. But if you're here live, you could chat and be part of the conversation. If you are here on YouTube, you could like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. That keeps Blaine from giving us lightning teeth,
Ugh.
which Peter loves
Hate it.
when Luke gets lightning in his teeth in Return of the Jedi. It's one of Peter's favorite things. And that Blaine would do the same thing, when he zapped those people and killed them with blue fire, as they called it. They have lightning teeth.
No.
And then if you want to find the show notes, you can do that at darkttowerpalaver.com. Everything I cover in this episode, as well as some links. There may be a couple merchandise things that I might be sharing. All the links for that, as well as all the articles we cover, will be over there if you want to read them in full. I just recap them. Then if you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/darkttowerpalaver. That does remind me, we do our monthly hangouts for Patreon. We actually should have done it yesterday, but we decided to boot it to next week because what we're going to do is do a deep dive reaction to the Salem's Lot movie.
Watched it yesterday.
That just came out. So
Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet.
I watched it yesterday with my wife Lydia. So
I'm in the midst of a pretty crazy undertaking right now. I do think I
Yeah.
might be able to tag it tonight because I do have one movie. So I'm watching 50 horror movies in the 31 days of October.
at least 50.
50 is what I planned, but Salem's Lot's is the 51st.
Yep.
So on a recording day, though, I only have one movie planned. So I think I might be able to throw Salem's Lot in there as well because I've yet to watch it. But that'll be coming in a week from yesterday. And then I do think on the next roundtable we'll probably discuss some Father Callahan stuff because I think that going into the whole thing is a little bit more probably hangouty, less Dark Tower, a little bit more in-depth Stephen King that's not Dark Tower, but I do want to cover the Father Callahan stuff. So look forward to that in November when we're back for our next roundtable after today. Then if you want to, you also get access to our Discord server where you can chat with us all the time, sending Peter emojis and telling him that, Flag is the good guy. Those are all perfectly acceptable things to do on our Discord server. And then if you want to contact the show, Peter can let you know how to do that.
I don't know if I want to after you saying that. Best way to reach us is through email.
Thank you, Mike.
show@darktowerpalaver.com. I don't want to look. And then we have our Twitter. It's @DarkTowerPod. That's @DarkTowerPod. And then we got a Blue Sky account. It's @DarkTowerPalaver.bsky.social. And then Facebook is facebook.com/DarkTowerPalaver. Instagram is DarkTowerPalaver, all one word, no spaces. And then go to tpublic.com/users/DarkTowerPalaver to check out our merchandise. We got the official logo where it says #Tad is terrible, and then the alternate logo that Tad's wearing that says Dark Tower Palaver.
The official logo.
It doesn't say official if I click on that website. It just shows them.
It's implied.
Not to me.
Oh, you Jedi scum and your points of view, lying to people through those crazy word games. All right. Yeah. So that is everything I had before diving into everything. But yeah. So Salem's Law. I'm glad you watched it.
Yeah.
Did you give your wife the creeps?
I
mean, I know where vampires aren't necessarily things that get her too much. No. So not like clowns.
Not like clowns. No. There were parts that got me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I do think I'm going to be able to watch it tonight. I was thinking about it when I was getting lunch this afternoon. I was like, I've only planned one movie after recording. After recording, we get done like 6:30ish. I'll get some dinner. Yeah. But I'm like, that's I can easily fit 2 movies in there. So the other one I'm watching is the classic, The Thing from Outer Space, the original Thing. So that's one I've never seen before, although I've seen some scenes from it because they show it in Halloween. So.
Like the old school one.
Yeah, the one from the 50s, I think.
50s, yeah.
So that, and then I'll throw Salem's Lot on the list as well and watch that tonight as well. Can't wait for that. So let's go ahead and let me make sure to switch the thing over to studio mode because I was editing earlier. There we go. So first off, we have Flanagan Corner. A lot of fun little things to cover for Mr. Flanagan.
Oh, Flanagan.
Let's go ahead and jump on into the first one. So during the last episode, it was right in the middle of the Toronto International Film Festival, also known as TIFF, where they were doing the premiere of Life of Chuck. I know we covered some tweets from Mark Hamill. I believe the premiere was the night before our podcast, and there's a wonderful picture of Stephen King and Mark Hamill sitting next to each other, and Mark is geeking out.
Yeah.
So which makes me happy. It always makes me wonder though, because like Hamill's young because he was young in Star Wars, but it always makes me wonder, like with something as iconic as Luke, does like Stephen King look at him as like, oh my god, that's Luke Skywalker? You know what I mean? Because it's not like it's someone 20 years after King's like been so established that it's just like whatever. But it's like King would have still been in his younger career watching like fucking Star Wars and like I don't know. I just wonder that at times.
Star Wars came out the year after Carrie, so it's like I watched you in theaters, kind of thing before King even got big.
It? No, Carrie is 74. The movie was 76.
The movie was 76. Yeah.
So, but either way, that's only 3 years after Carrie was published. So so
he was like starting to become big when Star Wars comes out. I just find it fascinating when stars from different genres, for lack of a better word,
mediums.
Mediums, yeah, that's a good word. Because like I'm a big sports fan, so I'll watch like behind the scenes stuff like that. And there was one where it's like, there's a famous one where the 49ers are playing in the Super Bowl back in the 80s, and everyone's kind of on edge because it's a close game. And Joe Montana's just like, "Hey, look, it's John Goodman." Not John Goodman.
Bill Murray.
No. Black Sheep.
Chris Farley. Yeah.
I think it's Chris Farley. He's like, "Hey, look, it's Chris Farley," and everything like that.
There's one.
And then it's just like everyone looks up and it's like, "Holy shit!" Like seeing him on the jumbotron, and they're like looking around, like, "Where is that from?" Oh shit, he's like right over there, like 50 feet away from him. And these guys are playing in the Super Bowl. These are like the best of the best football players, and they're just like geeking out over a celebrity like that.
I've seen one from the late 90s, early 2000s with Brett Favre, and he saw Pat Morita, is that how you say it? Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, he's like, that's Mr. Miyagi.
He's like, look, it's Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, he's like freaking out on the sideline. I've seen that clip too.
It's great stuff. But yeah, I guess on top of it as well, if you really want to think about it, the book that really put King on like a superstardom was actually The Shining, which did come out in 1977.
It was John Candy.
John Candy.
That's the actor who it was. Yeah.
So ultimately, King, yes, he had 2 books out, but he really didn't become a household name until The Shining.
Yeah.
I mean, in the literary sense, people kind of saw Carrie and went like, "Oh man, like keep your eye on this kid." Salem's Lot didn't do terrible, but The Shining was the one that really blew up, and that came out in January of '77. So you're talking about King really hitting it big, basically the same year that Mark Hamill did. So,
yeah, exactly. So it's like they come up around the same time. It's just like, like if you want to look at like someone who started acting around the same time as Michael Jordan, late 80s, maybe like I don't know, maybe Harrison Ford, like he's had Indiana Jones and everything like that. He's really popular. Jordan starts to become really popular. How do they interact with each other? When they see each other, it's like, oh my God, you're Michael Jordan. Oh my God, you're Harrison Ford, kind of thing. So
it reminds me of The Simpsons, the B Sharps episode where Homer's like, then the greatest day of my life. And then George Harrison walks up. Hello, Homer. Oh my God.
Where'd you get that brownie? There's a whole plate of them over there. And he like shoves them out of the way.
Oh, I love the spirit of it. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump on into what we have here. It's basically it's the TIFF thing. So we have a little bit more fallout from that. We kind of had the immediate things. I remember mentioning last roundtable, that there was a couple reviews out that were both fairly positive. That's maintained, and there's been a lot of positivity with the reviews. So this one, though, is Stephen King and Mike Flanagan share status updates on the Dark Tower TV series. Quote, "I'm revving myself up." And this is by Josh Corngut, which that's an interesting name, from Dread Central on September 11th, 2024. And so TIFF was happening again when we did our last episode, and then Dread Central was actually there, seeing the movie, as well as they were able to grab a couple quotes from some people on the red carpet, including Stephen King and Cy Flanagan. So Josh highlighted their collaboration so far and said that Dark Tower is probably their next one after Life of Chuck. He said he was able to pester both men about the Dark Tower project at TIFF. He also mentioned all the Dark Tower tweeting that King had been doing up as of late, which we covered extensively in the last roundtable. I haven't seen a whole lot else on that. I'm still watching Twitter quite a bit, but I haven't seen any other overt Dark Tower references since the last episode. First, he asked King what he most wanted to see come to fruition out of all the stuff in development right now, and King quickly answered the Dark Tower. So
ooh, nice that he's right there on it,
Yeah, that's King's first answer. When asked about the meaning behind all of his tweets, he says, "I'm trying to rev myself up." So that doesn't really give us a lot of answers, because we did a lot of speculating last episode, like, is he like revving himself up for another book? We did also speculate it could just be a matter of like Flanagan stuff is starting to gain some steam, and he's like kind of like helping that along, or getting excited along with it. So ultimately this doesn't give us a lot of clarity as to what it is, because he's revving himself up for what? For a Flanagan Dark Tower series, or for another Dark Tower book, or both? That would be my guess, or that would be my hope. That's where if you were to ask
we can dream.
Yeah, my ultimate pick would be both. Let me get a Flanagan Dark Tower series greenlit, and get us a release date for the first season, or the first episode, and then have maybe King write a Dark Tower book that publishes right around the same time. That would be something else.
That would.
Although, what would Flanagan do if the new Dark Tower book dropped? Would he have to like extend the show to like
He's
include
like, excuse me, I'm gonna pause this working. I'm gonna go read this for a couple days. I'll see you guys later.
So Flanagan, when asked if there was an announcement forthcoming on the project, he said with a grin, "Who knows?" So Flanagan's being a little cagey there, smiling, but then saying, "Who knows?"
Being a little coy.
He says, I think with the Dark Tower, for anybody who's familiar with it, when you're on the path of the beam, it's an incredibly long journey, but it does not mean we're not going forward with it. It just means it takes time." So similar to what we've heard before. So
we've heard this several times before. So
yeah. What are you throwing in the chat?
How many book clubs we had per year?
Oh, okay, I see. So then,
according to Apple Podcast, anyway.
So Josh asked King what made Flanagan so good at adapting his work, and he said, "Quote: He's able to take the story flat and develop it in a way that doesn't fix it. He's able to respect the material in a way that keeps him from getting too cute with it. And he's great at what he does. He's a real craftsman. He's really creative." So kind of interesting, because I mean, we all know that Flanagan has done 2 MVP King adaptations, as well as Midnight Mass, which may as well be a Stephen King adaptation. Like, I every time I think about it, I'm like, how was that not a Stephen King book? Like,
yeah.
It's just everything about it. It's like small New England town, isolated out in the middle of an island, and then vampires invade. Like, that just sounds like King.
Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised we didn't see blue chambray shirts and, I don't know, Takuro spirits or something on that island.
And someone saying "caw" or something like that.
Yeah, it still amazes me. Although I did just rewatch Haunting of Hill House, and if it wasn't for this Halloween thing, I might actually just go and watch all of his stuff again, because I don't know that I've even rewatched Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, or House of Usher is so new. But it's like I don't think I've rewatched any of those. And after Hill House, I was like, oh, I want to watch the rest of them.
I just want all Flanagan.
So
you know what? Now you know what to do for November.
Yeah, that's true.
Flanagan November.
Yeah, that's true. That's usually what I've been doing, is doing Hill House around Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So
now just replace it with Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, and the Fall of the House of Usher.
Yeah, because the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, oh, Bly Manor, I can't wait to watch. I need to watch that again. Then I'm like, oh, Midnight Mass, and then Midnight Mass just celebrated its 3-year anniversary. So that's had me kind of thinking about that. And then House of Usher was so fucking good. I'm like,
oh, it's amazing.
Oh my god, Flanagan is a god.
Just took it to my veins.
Yes, indeed. So that is kind of what they got from the two gentlemen at TIFF. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the next one here. And this one is Life of Chuck. Director Mike Flanagan explains why Stephen King is more than just horror. And this is by Jeremy Fooster from Yahoo on September 8th, 2024. Today I learned Yahoo still exists. And I will say, I was a big Yahoo guy back in the day.
Were you? Not MSN?
Like in the, no, never MSN for me. Back in like the late 90s and early 2000s, yeah. Pre-Google, Yahoo, I was a Yahoo guy for sure. So it's just one of those things that every once in a while I'm like, oh my God, they're still around. I do think I still have
Oh my God, you two still living?
You still living? I do think I actually still have an email address with Yahoo, because Microsoft required one for some fucking dumb reason. You had to have like either
backup.
Yahoo or MSN, or they were limited who your like Xbox Live account had to be through. So I had to like create a Yahoo email. I was like, what am I, 60? So, so the article recaps Flanagan's previous work with King, King's properties. Mentioned that unlike those ones previously, the latest one, Life of Chuck, is not horror at all. And then we got some quotes from Flanagan talking about King and horror, which we all know that King gets kind of pigeonholed a lot of times with a lot of people as horror, but we all know that that is an untrue broadly. And this is what Flanagan says. He says, the thing about Stephen King is that he's known for horror, but his horror only works because his incredible empathy for his characters. And when you read a great Stephen King story, it's not about the monsters, it's about the people who have to deal with it or stand against it.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. And I think that ultimately even that always helps the horror, because you truly care for the characters. You know, and what I've always told people that when it comes to horror movies is really when you get to, especially me, I love slashers, but it's like when you get to a really good slasher, they actually take the time to make you care for the characters. Whereas when you get into like some of the bigger name killers and you get to some of the third or fourth sequels, like at that point they just don't fucking care. So like the victims are all like two-dimensional characters, and you don't give a fuck. You end up rooting for the killers, and like that's the difference a lot of times between the ones that kind of, unless you're a slasher fan like me, you may hate them, but me, I love them all. But it's like the difference between the ones that truly resonate with people is when you could really feel for the characters, you know.
Right. And
Hill House comes to mind. I mean, I know that's more of a ghostly, haunting one, but it's like you can't tell me you didn't care for every single one of those characters to one extent or another. And it's like, so then when they were faced with some ghoul, like you cared, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's spot on for Flanagan, because I think it's the same thing with King's writing. Like, you know, it works and is as scary as it is because you love those kids. You know, it's The Stand. You love those characters.
You're not just plugging in random kid A here. There's a couple, you know, instances where we get a taste of what Pennywise is with random victims and stuff like that. But that just heightens the scariness for the fact that my God, all 7 of them have had run-ins with him.
Yeah,
every single one of them. And will again.
You kind of know, right? Like this isn't going to happen where it's like, oh, one experience, cool, I'm done. I've checked my Pennywise card, I'm good to go. No, you know they're all going to run into it again. So
Mike says he still uses AOL.
And see, I can't remember if you had to get AOL to use AOL Instant Messenger. Do you remember? Because we used that.
Yeah, we had AOL emails as well.
Okay, because I was like, I remember using AIM a lot. That was
because we had Sidekicks, the T-Mobile Sidekick that
had
AOL Instant Messenger built into it. So again, we would just text through that.
Yeah.
But then normal text would be normal text for everyone else.
So we were trendsetters, and because now that's really popular. People are using non-SMS messaging on their phones as the main thing. But I even use AOL back on the computer days. So like pre-phones for me. So yeah, I'm sure I had an AOL then at some point if I was using AIM as much as I did. So then Mike Flanagan talking about the life of Chuck, he says it really did kind of feel like the world was ending, and he's talking about back in 2020 when he first read it. It was this incredibly profound shift out of the normal life and into this kind of light apocalyptic vibe that was taking over. And this story, of course, because of that, just grabbed onto me very intensely. Flanagan said, but it was about the moments that bring joy into our lives, and about the importance of being open to those moments and living about how we live our lives, and that made it feel completely timeless. And I remember when this first came out, there was a couple. I think this is the main one because it felt very apocalyptic, and it was like one of those ones where people are debating, like, dude, this just came out. Like, was King really writing about the pandemic? It didn't seem like it started yet. Like, King seemed like a prophet because he was like,
yeah,
it was this apocalyptic story gets published in early 2020, and it's like, oh, look.
Wait, he was writing about this last year, the year before when he wrote this? Like, wait a minute.
Yeah, King is no Simpsons, but he certainly does have some predictions that you've definitely got to give some credit to. So that's kind of cool to see both Flanagan, King talking about Flanagan as an adapter, and then in this other article, Flanagan talking about King. And yeah, because I don't know, it's kind of like you were saying earlier about celebrities. It's the same idea. It's like two creatives that have worked kind of together, and it's just kind of interesting to see what they think of each other.
It is so funny that Mark Hamill would geek out so much over Stephen King, and Stephen King would geek out so much over Mark Hamill, because then you have the debate. Which one's bigger?
Yeah.
Like, that's Luke fucking Skywalker. Well, yeah, that's Stephen fucking King.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing that I always wonder about, too, because it feels like we always get happy and geek out a bit when we find out celebrities, like, kind of come out of the closet as King fans.
Yeah.
Not that it's like anything to be ashamed of, but it's like when Taylor Swift had the whole thing where like one song she wrote was about Stephen King, and she talked about The Dark Tower. We've talked about that. We talked about Anthrax with Scott Ian. Like, it just feels like throughout time we always talk about and it always kind of geeks us out because it's like, but it shouldn't surprise us because it's like as broad as King has been sales wise, like. It's probably more of an anomaly for someone not to be I wouldn't say not to be a King fan, but an anomaly for someone to have not have read King in some sense.
Yeah.
So it's like we should almost just assume people are King fans, but because people don't talk about it very often, whenever they do, we always Leo meme it and get a little happy that people are, King fans.
Yeah, there was one where I can't remember who it was. You're like, who's this? And you sent me like some random person, actress, shot, and you're like, who is this? And I'm like, that's so and so. And you're like, do you see what she's carrying? And she was carrying a copy of The Stand. You're like, I like her. I'm like, you've never even watched anything with her. You're like, I don't care, I like her.
Yes. I'll always be down with some King fans, but,
especially The Stand fans.
It also makes me wonder too, like, what is Mark Hamill's favorite Stephen King?
Ooh,
that's an interesting one.
We'll get him on the show.
I mean, he has played a very iconic clown himself, so
it's true.
Him and Pennywise,
probably the most iconic clown.
I think Pennywise is pretty up there
over the Joker.
It's pretty up there, man.
No, I think Joker's number one.
I don't know. That's debatable. And if nothing else, Pennywise has moved the needle on the fear of clowns. I would love to see a study done on that. Like find clinical people that have been diagnosed as like clownophobes basically, and find out like did it peak in like the 90s, like after the series came out.
What is fear of clowns called?
It's
chlorophobia,
something like that.
Colorpho, COULRO phobia.
Yeah.
It's
definitely pretty common, and it makes me wonder: was there a spike in 17 after a whole new generation was exposed to Pennywise?
See, okay, and it's a specific phobia that can cause anxiety, nausea, and a racing heart. See, I don't know if that's actually like caused by the actual clown or if it's just remembering Pennywise.
Yeah, indeed. Although I would say that Pennywise is a lovable and endearing character that we all want to give.
Of course you would.
That we all want to give a hug to.
The thing that would eat you alive is loving and caring in your eye.
I mean, he's a clown. Clowns are happy. They try to bring happiness to people.
Just stop.
Dandolo made people laugh
to death.
I mean, what better thing can a comedian do than make someone laugh themselves to death?
Not make them laugh themselves to death. I mean, that's pretty obvious, right?
Nah. Dandolo's awesome. Next one we've got here is The Life of Chuck ended up winning the TIFF People's Choice Award.
Oh, nice.
So this is by Pete Hammond from Deadline on September 15th, 2024. So the winner of 2024's TIFF's People Choice Award was Life of Chuck. Chuck was actually not favored to win, so this is kind of a surprise. This is actually notable, and I wanted to point this out. I don't even think the article really went into this. This is notable because the last 14 of the People Choice Award winners for TIFF, of those 14, 12 of them have ended up nominated for Best Picture.
Wow.
So this is kind of a bell cow for the Oscar season, generally speaking. So
not won, but nominated.
Nominated, yes. 4 of the 12 were won Best Picture. So,
Okay.
yeah, but still, being nominated for Best Picture, I mean, that's, I know people say those cliche, it's just an honor to be nominated. No, it kind of is when it comes to something like that.
Yeah, when you look at how many movies come out every year.
Yeah, exactly.
To be considered one of the, 8 or 9 best?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's how many they nominate now?
Yeah, I think it's, something like that. So at the time of this article, Chuck had not landed a distributor, which is pretty unique for a winner of this award, as it would be the first one in recent memory that would not be able to ride this award right into the 2024 award season, because without a distributor, there's no release date. So, you normally, as TIFF's happening, it'll land a distributor and they'll announce like, we're going to put it out in October or November, and like just in time to be right in this heart of things.
Which is usually the Oscar season. What do you call it? The award season?
Yeah, award season.
Award
for sure.
season. I bet you everyone at every major studio is scrambling right now. Give me TIFF.
Yeah, indeed. So they describe Chuck as an apocalyptic version of It's a Wonderful Life, which that's an interesting.
Oh, okay.
That's an interesting way to describe it. They do speculate that this win should help speed up Chuck getting its distribution deal as well. So, and then that brings us to the next article.
I wonder if there's any other awards in the making for it. Best actor, best actress, best director, cinematography. There's all of those different awards as well.
Yeah.
Supporting as well. Costumes. I wonder if there's any
adapted screenplay,
original score, or anything like that. I wonder if there's anything like that awaiting this Life of Chuck as well.
Yeah, could be. But the next one we got here, though, is Toronto Festival winner, The Life of Chuck, based on Stephen King's novella. And this headline is written very poorly. I don't know if the AI was drunk or what. But the Stephen King novella in neon deals. So this is Mike Fleming Jr. from Deadline on September 26, 2024. First of all, I got to point out from the start here, I have never seen an outlet get catty, but there was one for this, and it made me laugh out loud. So at the very beginning of this article, there's an editor's note, and I was like, maybe they made a correction or something. This is the editor's note as it read. Ahead of the article, it said, quote, Variety ran a story 3 minutes behind Deadline's scoop and then changed their timestamp to 11:53 to appear as though they broke this story. We at Deadline here do not bend time. It seems enough that our readers who rely on us to break virtually every festival deal story knows that the other side fudged it, not us.
We got some shade being thrown by Deadline towards Vanity Fair. Holy cow.
Or Variety.
Oh, Variety. I'm sorry.
It's so funny, dude. Like, I love it. I really do.
That's crazy.
That made me laugh. But then as we dive in, the audience prize winner at TIFF is Life of Chuck, and it is now in its final talks. And spoiler alert, it ended up getting finalized. It got a deal with Neon for its distribution deal. It also says that they are actually eyeing a summer 2025 release for the film. This has upset some folks because it sounded like Neon, but the reason that they're pushing it, because again, it seems like you'd want to get it out quick and hit up award season, but it sounds like Neon already has signed the movie Anora, which came in third for the People Choice Award at TIFF. They had already signed that movie, and that one is kind of already being thought that Neon might be building that one for an Oscar run. So there's probably a chance that they don't want to have two dogs that they're trying to support. So
don't want to end up going head to head. Just put one next year, and then you have 2 years in a row.
Yeah, exactly. I will say, from my perspective, Neon is a really good distributor. They've done a lot of really good stuff. It feels like they do a really good job with marketing. I want to say, if I remember right, like Smile is one of theirs. And like, if you remember, like when they did like the sports games where they had like actors wearing like the Smile things, like they do all kinds of like really interactive, not standard marketing, like stuff that actually goes viral. Neon's always been really good at supporting their stuff, and the last number of years they've actually kind of been, a lot of people would say they're probably the underdog, with A24 and Blumhouse being the top dogs in kind of that horror realm, but Neon's been doing some stuff recently where they've been kind of like hitting the big boys a little bit and doing a good job. So
they did Longlegs.
Yeah, Longlegs as well, which the marketing on that was genius as well. So yeah, Neon's a really good distributor from my perspective as a movie fan. This is not a bad way for Life of Chuck to go. I would suspect that we're going to get some decent marketing for it, although it is interesting because, again, it's not a horror property. So not that Neon only does horror, because I mean even the one that they're running for the Oscars this year is not a horror, but they do well with the horror, kind of like A24 and Blumhouse. Neon does, so they're pretty good. And honestly, I'm fine with the summer release date, but I wonder if they end up going later in 2025 to get a little bit closer to award season. Because if this comes out in like July, I mean, one, that would show they're ballsy as fuck and they believe in this movie if they're going to put it out in the middle of blockbuster season.
Yeah.
But I don't know that would spell a lot of good for it for any Oscar consideration. Although I also don't know what a TIFF winner from a year before does for the next year's Oscars. So not that it matters. But I would. My last note here, not to sound selfish, but if Flanagan got an Oscar nomination, I can't imagine that would hurt The Dark Tower's chances for getting some more buy-in from folks. But then again, I said ... assuming Flanagan doesn't already have something in place.
Right.
Because the thing that I keep thinking about, man, is the last episode we uncovered the fact that Flanagan's had these rights since, like, was it March or April of 2020?
Yeah.
So, like, weeks after the other one was canceled.
Yeah.
The Glenn Mazzara one. Or not canceled, but they didn't get picked up by Amazon. So Flanagan's had these rights for a long fucking time, and it kind of makes me reevaluate my entire thought process, because like there's part of me that's like getting a little antsy where it's like, come on, man, we need to be getting some like forward motion on this. But it's like suddenly now knowing that like this didn't start in 2022 when Flanagan first announced it publicly, but it's 2 years older than that it's been in his hands, like it kind of changes the whole paradigm for me a little bit in my head, because it's like, oh shit, like he's been working on this for a long time. He's been going through a lot more waiting than we have, so maybe I should just trust the process that he's going through. But developmental hell just scares me a little bit, because we went through it with the movie.
We've been through it a couple times.
Yeah, we've been through it with the movie for over 10 years. So I just kind of worry a little bit. But I mean, obviously Flanagan, things like The Exorcist as well, he's definitely a hot property, so it kind of makes me wonder all these things. I'm just thinking a cherry on top could be an Oscar nomination. That would be
awesome.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe best makeup for Exorcist too. That could be an Oscar thing.
Be.
You never know. They always do good special effects in the horror movies.
Or if they come up with another like a banger, like we know horror movies have won best score.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Does I mean, not that any of his scores have been bad, but I don't know that any of his have necessarily. Not that means anything, but it's like, I don't know.
Imagine we get a new Exorcist theme, like tubular bells and everything. Flanagan just goes out of his way to make a good theme for us going forward. You hear a little bit of it played by the band in Magus.
Flanagan does put Easter eggs in his stuff.
He does, exactly.
Like we saw a Midnight Mass book in Gerald's Game on their bookshelf, I believe. Because it was one of those things when Midnight Mass finally came out, people were like, there's like been hints and all these other things. Like, I've wanted to do this story for a long time. Yeah. So I just threw hints all over the place where, there's like a book for it. In Gerald's Game, I think you see a book. I think in Hill House, I think you see something that says Midnight Mass or something. So, he's definitely not below. Or
sprinkling in those little Easter eggs.
Yeah, not above throwing some Easter eggs in there. I mean, hand trauma, too. We got to imagine the lobstrosity attack's going to be quite gory.
I'm honestly surprised Flanagan doesn't have that copyrighted, like deglovings.
And it's not always deglovings either, because the Hill House, I always forget, like, what's the hand trauma in Hill House? It's the fan. When the dad, and then like that big old giant gash on his fucking hand. So it's not always degloving, but it's traumatic hand injuries.
I don't know what Flanagan has against hands.
I don't know. And a lot of people said cats, too.
That's true.
But he made the argument with House of Usher that the Edgar Allan Poe story, the cat is like brutally destroyed, and he's like, in my version, you think it dies, but it turns out it's okay. So he's like, in my defense, I was nicer to the cat than Poe was. So
I mean, yes, but we also have the Haunting of Hill House and Midnight Mass to go off of there, sir. Yeah. We're not just looking at one; we're looking at all of your things.
We're looking at the patterns here, Mike.
Yeah. I did not kill that woman. Yeah, what about those other 6? No, we're not going to talk about it. Just the most recent one.
Oh, man. So let's go ahead and jump on to the next one. This is kind of exciting. The Institute, MGM Plus series based on Stephen King novel, adds 11 to its cast.
Oh, we get some castings.
A lot of big castings. We've already had two that we've covered, but there are apparently two more
happening. That's a guard, that's a doctor, and then those are the kid subjects. Yeah.
So this is by Denise Petsky from Deadline on September 23rd, 2024. The Institute is being developed by MGM Plus. Is, of course, based on the 2019 King novel. Previously, it had cast Mary Lou Parker as Miss Sigsbee and Ben Barnes as Tim Jameson, which is the night knocker of the nearby town. He was like a cop that left the job and moved to this small town and got hired on by the police department as the night knocker. Apparently, we also missed Simone Miller and Jason Diaz being cast, as they are being listed as previously announced, but somehow I missed it. So Simone is showing up as Kalisha, which is obviously a pretty big character in the book.
Is she one of the ones pictured?
No, she's from a previous set, but Kalisha was one of the closer ones to Luke in the story. So, and then Jason is showing up as Tony, and then which is the most sadistic of the Institute's orderlies, who delights in wielding his power over the children. Those are the previous ones. So we have 4 cast already, and that's them. And now we're getting into this next 11. So they've added 11 to the cast, and they're getting ready to ramp up filming. So Joe Freeman, he's from Doctors, and I don't know if that's a movie or a show, but he's playing Luke Ellis. He is the biggest picture. I can't tell you I know all of the pictures here on the screen, but Luke Ellis is the biggest one. Of course, he's the main character. Fionn Laird is from Under the Banner of Heaven, which that was a great show, by the way. He is playing Nick, the Institute's resident bad boy rebel. Hannah Galeway, from Under the Banner of Heaven, is playing Wendy, a police officer and lifelong resident of the town where Tim is night knocking. Julian Richings is from Bew is Afraid. He is playing Stackhouse, the Institute's calculating head of security. And then Robert Joy, he's from Julia, is playing Hendrix, the doctor in charge of the Institute's scientific work. Viggo Hanvelt from Our Christmas Mural is playing Avery, the youngest, most innocent, and by far most powerful of the Institute's inmates. I do believe that is the one in the bottom middle, playing Avery there. And then Arlen So from Something Rotten is playing George, the Institute's class clown. Burva Pandey from Umbrella Academy is playing Iris, one of the first kids Luke meets when he arrives at the Institute. Dan Bernine from Genie in Georgia is playing Drew, a police officer in the department that Tim works for. Martin Roche from Suits is playing Chief Ashworth, Tim's boss, a small town chief of police. And then Jane Luke, Streams Flow from a River, is what she was from, is playing Marine, an Institute orderly with a tragic past. So that is pretty well filled out, the cast. I mean, I'm certain there will be some others, but that's probably the majority of our main reoccurring characters. So it's going to, and also I don't remember we've covered this before, but it's going to be 8 episodes, The Institute. Okay. So with Joe Freeman playing Luke Ellis. Also a reminder, MGM Plus used to be called Epics, so they have previously done Stephen King's Chapelwaite. So they're not unfamiliar in the King realm.
Is there anyone that hasn't done King yet? I mean, we got to start checking stuff off, right?
Yeah, I mean, Netflix has got their stuff. Hulu's done a few.
Max has Salem's Lot.
Yeah, Max has got Salem's Lot. Yeah, it's probably pretty rare. Peacock has Mr. Mercedes.
Yeah.
Paramount maybe is the only one that comes to mind. I mean, certainly Paramount's probably done King films over the years.
Yeah.
But Paramount Plus is fairly newer in the streaming game and has yet to...
Confirm Paramount Plus is getting Dark Tower. Just got to flesh out King going to every streaming service available.
So also the showrunner is Jack Bender, who is a big part of Mr. Mercedes, filmmaking wise. The filming will begin later this year in Nova Scotia. So.
Oh, Canada.
Yep, indeed. A lot of filming in Canada. Long Walk's filming up in Canada right now.
A lot of discounts in Canada for filmmakers.
There are. Plus, there's the one city that basically looks like New York, well enough to pass it in...
Vancouver, right?
I don't
I think it's
I can't keep them straight which is which, but because they do filming in all the major cities, like Vancouver gets a lot of filming, Toronto, like there's filming all over Canada.
Maybe it is
sure.
Toronto. I think it's Toronto.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the next one, though. This is actually a fun little story that I had never heard before. Quentin Tarantino, this Stephen King's hidden gem, cast its A-list star. Again, these headlines are not written very well. This is by Tyler Dupe from Dread Central on September 20th, 2024. So yeah, I've never heard this one before. So while Tarantino has never done anything King-related, but wow, what would that look like if he did?
Jeez.
But he apparently did leave his mark on one King property. 1408 director Mikhail Hafstrom was interviewed by the King cast, and he revealed that Tarantino's input was behind the casting in the film. The character Olin was originally written as very different in the script. Hafstrom said, quote, Olin is written in the script as a balding white guy. Hafstrom admitted, when we were trying to figure out who was going to play him, Bob Weinstein called me one day and said, Quentin Tarantino read the script and really likes it, but feels it would be really cool. Wouldn't it be really cool if Sam Jackson played Olin? And I was like, well, if Quentin says so, it's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
So, which of course we all know that Sam Jackson went on to play the role. So sure glad Tarantino read the script and made the call. Also glad that it was that Weinstein and not the other one. Although, I'm not going to throw any shade at anyone. But now if you're someone in the filmmaking business and you got a call from Harvey Weinstein, are you not just telling the story now and just saying Bob called you? Because it's the two brothers. Like, wouldn't you just lie and just like?
Could.
Do you think anyone now is like, oh yeah, Harvey gave me a call one day and said, do this in your movie? Like, no, everyone now
just distance yourself from him entirely.
Suddenly, it probably used to be a 50-50 split of which Weinstein called someone, and now every story it's probably just 100% Bob, and no one's. Suddenly, Harvey's never called anyone in his life.
Yeah, Harvey who?
Oh man, it's like I think I remember seeing someone online where they were asking about like German, and how they view like what happened in World War II, and it's like I saw someone post and they're like, my family's German, and basically what it is nobody denies that bad shit happened in Germany. He's like, but I've never met one person who admitted their grandpa was part of it.
Yeah.
Everyone's grandpa was a farmer or something like that.
Oh, he was just conscripted to fight. He didn't do anything bad.
Yeah. All right. So that now, I may have teased a little bit earlier, maybe knowingly, but it turns out we've got another Stephen King fan that is new to us. Let's see. Okay. So James McAvoy tells us the character from Stephen King's It that he kept trying to include in the It movie, but the director kept cutting it out. This is by Eric Eisenberg from Cinema Blend on September 19th, 2024. So Eric starts by saying that King is not always the easiest to adapt, and his verbosity may make making a manageable runtime a bit tough to accomplish at times for screenwriters. But also sometimes his ideas are just so wild and out there, it's hard to convey on screen. On It Chapter 2, James McAvoy made a valiant effort to include references to Mautrin the turtle, but Andy Muschietti kept cutting them out in the edit. So McAvoy said, quote, I feel like it was actually pretty faithful to the book. Andy was really lovingly adapting the books, or the book. I think at most points. I remember The Turtle. Do you know that book well? I love the book. It's one of my favorites. And The Turtle is the thing that keeps coming up to the kids. And they keep talking about the turtle and like the turtle can't save us and all that. I kept trying to put the turtle into the movie at every opportunity. And then McAvoy continued, and Andy was so kind and nice. He never shot me down. Whenever I put the turtle in, I think he was just thinking, I'm just going to cut it in the edit. So
I'll indulge him, but I'll take it out later.
Yeah, exactly. Eric does give Andy his flowers for being more faithful to the book than the 90s series, as it included the Ritual of Chud, which was not included in the original, as neither was Mautrin, which Matrin's not really in either versions. There is a slight reference in the first movie where they find a turtle in the water. You never see it, and then I believe there's a Lego turtle that is dropped and broken during one scare scene, which I always remember. There's the nerds that came out. There was no green Legos in that year. Which I'm like, wait, there wasn't green Legos in the 80s? Like, but apparently, Lego fans
know their stuff.
Had to chime in.
Yeah.
Eric also mentions that with Welcome to Derry coming and having that far greater runtime to play with, there is still a chance that Mautrin can show up in the Pennywise film universe.
Yeah.
So, which is definitely true. I also want to point out that John Ritter apparently was a huge book nerd and was constantly pushing for some of the more wild parts of the book to be included in the original adaptation, including the Ritual of Chud, and I believe Mautrin, I think, are two things that John Ritter brought up back in the day on the original. So, I love that both versions have had one person on set trying to cram book stuff in that the screenwriters and directors didn't necessarily want to include.
Just got to do it one time.
Yeah, I mean,
give us the whole thing.
I mean, and the thing is, it's weird. Is like, is it that big a deal? Like, to cut out, because you think of like some of the things like, what was it? Was it TET bus company and Dr. Sleep? There was there's like a number of references and other things that it's like it's just a throwaway thing. I guess maybe it's just growing the actual like mainline story too much, because it's like audiences might wonder like, what the hell is this turtle they're talking about?
Yeah.
So, but I do love that both of them have had, and both of them ended up on the adult side.
Yeah.
That ended up being big Stephen King fans that were basically picketing for inclusion of some.
Put him in. Put him in.
I'm trying to remember. It wasn't Ritter, I think, played Ben.
Yeah.
So Ben, and then McAvoy was Bill. Okay. So not the same character. That would have been something if both the nerds ended up being the same character. But that kind of goes back to the Mark Hamill conversation too. Is it's like, making these movies, like you got to imagine there's a number of fans on set, and not that they're necessarily always like, oh, well, we should include this or that. Maybe not, but it's like the fact is like a lot of people are probably geeking out. Making.
You just imagine being like just a light guy, right? Like you work on lighting and stuff like that, and you get a call you work for Warner Brothers, and they're like, hey, we got a job for you, fly here, here's your information, fly here, meet up with this person, and then you'll get instructions. Well, what movie is it for? Oh, it's It. Holy fuck. Like this person's been reading Stephen King since they were, 15, 16, like me.
Yeah.
I just imagine that like that's their favorite book, and they're just like, holy fuck. And they're there like fixing the lights, and they're like, that's Pennywise, oh my God.
Yeah. Of course, you'd bring your wife on set.
No. She would not go. Not a chance.
You wouldn't trick her and say it's just some coming of age movie you're working on.
That's how you sleep on the couch, Tad.
Buy a comfy couch. So McAvoy also doesn't get enough credit for being a legit nerd. Between this and then the famous story where he shaved his head when he learned he got the role of Xavier in First Class, and then showed up bald, and Matthew Vaughn told him basically, you didn't have to do that. Charles wasn't going to be bald in this movie. And so then he filmed the whole movie with a wig.
Yeah.
I just feel like you kind of get like the Henry Cavill always gets a lot of like, a lot of flowers from the nerd community for being a nerd. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I think between those two things, this and then the Xavier thing, like McAvoy deserves some love.
McAvoy deserves some love.
That's pretty cool. Nerdy wise, because I mean, versus like Patrick Stewart, where he didn't know anything, and they're just like, "Here's a comic book." He's like, "Why am I on that comic book cover?" Like, it's not.
No, that's not you. That was written back in the '60s.
Yeah, exactly. Back when you were probably only half bald.
Yeah, doing plays.
Oh, still one of the most upsetting things I've ever seen is the hairpiece. Have you seen that picture?
No.
Next Gen, early on, they were going to put a hairpiece on him.
Oh.
Because they thought, like, well, you can't have a bald captain. And there's a picture floating out there of him in, like, the Starfleet uniform with, like, a fucking wig, or, like, a toupee, and it's quite disturbing because Patrick Stewart is iconic.
Oh! Ugh.
Oh, and then
that's terrible.
Yeah, finally he was able to convince him. He basically just said, "Come on, man, it's the future. Do you think people really care about baldness in the 24th century?" And that sold them to.
Nowadays, people don't care about baldness. Patrick Stewart was a wizard.
Yeah,
he saw the future.
Trendsetter for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so that is it for the news. Let's jump on over to the odds and ends. We've got a few of these. The first one here, and I already kind of teased this a little bit, but we got some merchandise, so guard your wallet. Funko, for the 30th anniversary of Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, Red!
Has put out or is putting out two Funko. I can't remember if they're out or pre-order. I've got some links. I'll put them in the show notes. They are pre-order. They are going to be coming out December 25th, 2024. So they're coming out on Christmas. So it's Andy and Red. Andy's got his little rock hammer. They're both in their prison uniforms. Red's got his mitt. His shirt's on
baseball
buttons.
Glove, yeah.
Yeah. And then he's got the hat on. So that's pretty awesome. I don't know. I was thinking I want the one sister in a wheelchair as a Funko Pop, but
as long as they don't make a Mrs. Carmody Funko Pop, I'll be okay.
Yeah, and
with like the glass of milk and a Bible.
Yeah, I gotta say, I showed some restraint because I could have said Brooks.
Oh. Damn, Dad. Oh.
But I just hurt Peter deep in his soul.
That's low, man.
It's funny to me, but it is sad, of course. But
you're a terrible person.
Oh man. Next up, we got a fun picture that just got. Well, I don't know if it just came out, but it's one that I saw for the first time recently. Stephen King on the set of Gremlins.
I love it.
What do you think the chances are that Mr. King is sober in this picture?
None. 0.
Oh man, I love the spirit of that. And then the next one, we got a God amongst men, Tom Savini, posing in front of a fluffy wall mural type thing. So that's pretty awesome. Got to figure out where that's at.
Burn it down.
Now that's what we need a Funko for is fluffy.
No.
Just get the little crate and.
Nope.
You could do like they have the collector's ones. Like I have the Darth Vader and the hyperbaric chamber. They just need to do that where it's the crate and then you pull Fluffy out of it.
That's a no for me, dog.
Oh man. Next up we've got Stephen King on Twitter basically hyping up the release of Salem's Lot.
Great poster.
And he's got the poster in front of him and he's holding a little Count Dracula figure and he says in the tweet, "Me and my friend the Count await the premiere of the latest Salem's Lot October 3rd, HBO Max." Which I also do got to point out, that was our anniversary too. So
it was.
HBO Max was kind enough to release that
on our 9th anniversary. They put out Salem's Lot.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, that's pretty cool. He's also wearing a Stephen King shirt of some kind, but he's leaning over, so I can't really tell what it is. I did look.
Of course he is.
I did look close. I think because he just gets shit sent to him where they're like, "Oh, we made some really cool thing. We want you to see it," and he's like, "Cool, I'll wear it."
And he's like, "Cool, I don't have to go shopping."
Yeah, exactly. Although back on that the TIFF thing, he was actually in a suit and tie, and that was strange because he's always so casual. We did see him there when there was that court case too, where there was an outside shot of him outside the courthouse in a suit and tie, and it was like, that's not right. It's like it'd be like seeing someone that's only ever in a suit and a tie and like jeans. Like imagine Alfred wearing jeans.
No.
And then the last one for odds and ends is a fun one here. King on Twitter talking baseball. He says, "Chicago White Sox fans, I feel your pain. As a fan of the other Sox, I tried to switch my loyalties to Cleveland during one particularly awful season. Butch Hobson, I'm talking about you. I couldn't do it. Things will get better because they can't get worse." So, and that's an interesting thing. King tried to jump ship from the Red Sox. That's wild. I mean, decades and decades of misery. I can't blame any fan.
Century.
Well, for him, it would have been decades. But, because there's some where it's like, oh, my God, my team hasn't won in 10 years or whatever. But it's like, for him, that would have been his whole life, I guess, really. Yep. Right? Because, he would have been a fan pretty much since he was a kid, most likely.
The funny thing is, for me, is that baseball has far less teams that have won championships than other sports. Like, you get mixes here and there, it seems like, with football, but with baseball it always seems like it's the same 7 teams, so the others just always suck.
I don't know. I saw a thing that when the playoffs got set, that it was going to be the 24th year in a row with a different World Series.
Yeah,
with different teams, like basically since 1999.
Yeah, but it's always one of the same, kind of thing and everything. So,
but it's interesting because it's like what would have happened if King actually stuck with that flip? Yeah. Like, does what was the Red Sox, the girl who loved Tom Gordon, would that have been a Cleveland player if that switch had stuck?
Maybe it depends on when Bush Hobson,
Yeah, I don't know when that was, but it's just wild to think about because I feel like, and honestly, even all year, I keep seeing pictures of King at Red Sox games, and usually he has like his iPad with him and he's reading between innings and stuff, and it's just I feel like he's as iconic to that team as like Jack Nicholson is for the Lakers. So it's just like, man, thinking of him like not being a Red Sox fan is like thinking of him not living in Maine. Yeah, there's out of hell with Maine, man. I'm never going there again. I'm gonna go live in Nevada.
92, 93, 94 was the years that he was a manager for the Red Sox.
Oh, okay.
That's right around the time that The Girl Who Loves... It wasn't The Girl Who Loves Tom Gordon in the 90s?
I thought it was 2000s, but where the... Pulling up my list here. It's a matter of finding it now.
April 6, 1999, is that right? Original published date, April 6, 1999. So... Yeah,
okay.
If he had changed right after that might have been a Cleveland player instead of Tom Gordon. Interesting.
That's funny.
In an alternate universe, there is a king who switched teams.
Yeah, indeed.
On a different level of the tower.
All right, so next up we got Uncle Stevie Recommends. So the first one he's got is Teacup. He says, if you like From or Lost, I think you'll enjoy this. It's strange, creepy, claustrophobic, and scary. Beware the gas mask man. Which that just sounds like something from Stephen King. He says short episodes, all killer, no filler. Peacock bows October 10th, so 5 days from now. So
nice.
Which again, King's just getting this shit sent to him, man. Like he sees all this stuff.
Must be nice.
It really does. But then again, now with as much as he tweets stuff that he likes, like if you're a studio, are you not sending shit to him?
Free publicity, right?
Yeah, it's like you got one of the bigger.
You're not paying for anything, really.
No, not really.
Unless they are. What if they're paying?
I doubt it. King's got so much money. I don't think he really gives a fuck about that. But I'm sure he just like gets these DVDs in the mail or whatever, and then like, oh, let's watch this.
Let's watch this.
You know, I'm sure they pick what they send to him too.
Yeah.
Like if it's scary, spooky, whatever. I highly doubt he's getting the latest chick flick sent to him. So, not to say he doesn't like chick flicks. I just imagine that you wouldn't necessarily want your latest Reese Witherspoon thing. Like, oh, Stephen King raving about our.
Wait, what?
Stephen King. I love this movie. They put it on the poster. And then the next one he's got let me find just lost my there we go, find the picture thing, there we go, and then I can change it over. The next one he says, I watched one of the best movies I've seen this year. It's called The Rule of Jenny Penn, and I urge you to watch it when it appears on Shudder. Jeffrey Rush stars with John Lithgow as a geriatric psychopath with an evil hand puppet.
Yeah.
So for one, Jeffrey Rush and John Lithgow, that alone probably would sell me on it. But for King to say one of the best movies he's seen this year, and the fact that it's on Shudder,
I was sold with Evil Hand Puppet.
And Evil Hand Puppet is just
all the other stuff is window dressing. That's
the true thing to draw us in. I mean, what hand puppets aren't evil? Let's be honest.
That's true.
That little lamb chop one probably killed some of those kids on that show back in the
probably
day.
ate them.
Yes, they fed the children to the hand puppet. And Muppets, they're all evil.
Oh, sure.
You just know it. You just know it.
Yeah.
You could see it in their eyes.
The letter of today is M for murder.
You could see it in their beady little eyes.
Their beady little black eyes.
They're like dead eyes, like doll's eyes.
Like doll's eyes.
All right, so that brings us to the Palaver section. I got a couple little topics, and then we're going to dive in. We teased it last time, where we went through and read the scripts, the Mazzara scripts, and we want to go through and talk about those as well. So the first thing, though, is Frank Darabont now, at least for now, is out of retirement. We've kind of been hearing rumors of that for a while.
Yeah.
We know at one point he wanted to do the Dark Tower, but King said no. And then a few years later, King offered him the Dark Tower series, and he turned King down and said that he wouldn't know how to adapt it. So with him now out of retirement, let's just say Flanagan offered him some episodes on the Flanagan series.
Absolutely.
Which sections would you pick for
easy,
Frank Darabont?
Easy. Showdown of the Traveler's Rest.
Yeah?
Oh, easy. Easy.
Interesting. So more just based on Frank Darabont is a great filmmaker. That doesn't really fit any of the things that we truly love him and adore him for.
What do you mean?
What?
He's not. Don't pigeonhole
him
into a horror director. He is a great filmmaker.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you're just looking at it from the filmmaker's perspective.
Of course. What else would I look at it for?
I mean,
he doesn't do just horror.
Well, no, he did the two non-horror.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And if you're looking at what's the best scene, what's the best moment in the Dark Tower, Showdown of the Traveler's Rest was right up there with our fans, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. No. Okay.
Wait. What won best moment?
It was Traveler's Rest.
Yeah.
Because we ended up,
why would you not want your A-list, bring your A-list pitcher in for Game 7, kind of thing? This is his time to shine.
Do you think Flanagan would offer that episode?
Oh, that's the question. That's the real question there.
If he would, he is a much bigger man than I am.
Hey, Frank, you want to come direct some episodes?
Yeah,
I'll take the Traveler's Rest.
Actually, the studio just called.
Never mind.
We won't be.
We don't have the budget for you, bro. Sorry, Frank.
I guess for me, like I look at some of the work he's done. I mean, he's just such a good filmmaker. I mean, we have one horror and then 2 dramas in the King realm. We know he's done other stuff as well, but like, I don't know. I was just trying to think like, what stuff would I mean, yeah, there's big moments like that. I'm trying to think.
I mean, Charyu Tree would be amazing if Darabont does it.
Yeah.
I'm not doubting Flanagan at all. This is obviously saying Flanagan could do all of these himself.
Yeah.
But if you're going to have Darabont direct something, you're going to have him do something big.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to bring him in for the confrontation between Cuthbert and Roland, or the filler episode where Roy's riding their back trail or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Or even Susan going up to see Rhea, episode 1. Now, you're going to have him Traveler's Rest, Charyu Tree.
Okay, you're all talking book 4 stuff. What about the rest of the series?
I guess that's true. I'm just kind of focusing because
that won't come till much later.
I was just thinking like, I don't know what I was. I'm thinking of the Glenn Mazzara stuff, so I'm thinking that's where we
fresh,
start.
yeah.
That's what's fresh in my brain, so that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whole series.
Oh, dude, I gotta reevaluate, Tad. I was thinking starting where Glenn Mazzara and everything.
Yeah,
was.
no.
That's why I'm just focusing on book 4.
Yeah. I just realized.
That's why I said instantly Traveler's Rest, because that's the best scene in book 4 and the best scene in the whole series, dude. Ludd.
Yeah.
Everything with Ludd. Give him 2 episodes to do Ludd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Darabont doing Ludd with TikTok Man and Andrew Quick.
You can look at the Walking Dead for his post-apocalyptic abilities.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He knows how to do it and everything.
Yeah.
And then also Blaine, the showdown between Roland and Blaine, and then Eddie killing Blaine and everything. I think that would be like them crossing the bridge. You start the episode there. You go into Roland's about to go into save Jake. Eddie and Susanna are at the cradle, and Blaine wakes up and asks them who they are. Episode ends.
Yeah.
You start the next episode. You conclude the stuff in Ludd. And then the third episode, those are the 3 that he directs, is the conclusion of Blaine and the riddle contest. That's my.
So you're still giving him some of the MVP material.
Don't get me wrong.
Because Blaine's up there for an all-time moment too. So
the
Blaine showdown.
We're not gonna waste Darabont.
No.
We're not gonna use him on River Crossing or the Dancing the Kamala or something like that.
I mean, I would just say with Shawshank and Green Mile, Algo Ciento stuff, not necessarily the battle, but prison. Like he's done that incarceration stuff better than pretty much anyone. So you could always look at him imagine him doing that Shimi reveal.
Yeah,
that could be done pretty well by him.
Absolutely.
So.
And the fight where Eddie gets shot.
Yeah. If you actually did the battle as well, because like I said, I was even just thinking if you did some of the lead up to that, where it's like you establish like, okay, who are the people here? Who are the guards? Who are the prisoners? What are they doing? What does it look like? Kind of filmmaking wise, you also kind of get the layout in people's minds where they kind of know when the battle starts. Now it's fresh in our minds of like, what does this area look like? What are the spots they could be shooting from or whatever.
I know you got Mike Flanagan's number, so get him on the line. Here's what I want to do. I want to talk to him about doing a very interesting way of telling that story that you just said, where you want to get an idea of what it's like to be a breaker and stuff like that. That you think that it's Ted telling the quartet about being a breaker and stuff like that, but really what it is them scouting and seeing all this. So if you watch closely in like the background of shots, you'll see Roland and Jake go running across a ridge, or you'll see Eddie with a pair of binoculars. It's just you're like thinking that it's a story, but really it's like the quartet has spent a couple days scouting it and building a battle plan. Like, how cool would that be to go back and just be like, Flanagan's like, yeah, by the way, that's not a story. That's real time. And it's like, wait, what? And you go back and you watch it. You see someone run from one building to another, and you're like, fuck, that was Jake! That little son of a bitch.
Flanagan does that.
You see a little bumbler running with him.
Flanagan does that well.
Oh yeah, dude. Did you send me the Haunting of Hill House thing?
Yeah.
Where it's like there's creepy people in like almost every fucking scene.
Yeah. It really is. Every time I rewatch it, I'm like almost watching the background.
You're like, there's one.
Yeah.
There's one.
The one that hit me that I think it was the second or third time I saw it before I realized it is when the dad, it's later in the show, but it's basically that night of the beginning of the show where he's like comes in, grabs the kid, tells him to close his eyes. It's that night, but it's later on when you're actually seeing the night from the dad's perspective.
Yeah.
And he's like looking for his wife because she like vanished basically, and he's like looking around, and he's going up the hallway where the rooms are at, and then there's the foyer area where like the main stuff's that's right there. It's the last rooms before that, and there's two like statues like facing each other.
Yeah.
And he like it cuts as he's walking in, and I'm like, that statue's looking at him. And I'm like, was that statue always looking at him? Because it is. It's like its head's turned, looking down at him. And so I rewound it until it like goes to like the further shot. Nope, they're facing forward.
They're just like looking like this.
They're looking at each other. But
and then when he's walking past one of them into the room, it's looking down at him.
It's looking down at him.
It's just
it freaks me out, dude. It's just gives me the heebie-jeebies. So Flanagan does that background stuff. I think it took the second time for me to realize the bent-neck lady was behind them all in that one shot in the funeral home for Nell. There's like the whole family. They're all kind of like on either side of the aisle, but they're all there. But it's like it's so easy just to look. And the person up at the very front's the one that's talking. So it's easy to just be like fixated there. Yeah. But if you look in the very back, there she is.
She's just sitting there.
Standing there.
Yeah.
So it's just like Flanagan's good at that too.
So what would you give Darabont?
That's what I was thinking, like some of the Algo Ciento stuff, just based. I know I'm pigeonholing a little bit, but it's like he has done two of the greatest prison things of all time.
Is it really a prison though? Like,
yeah, I mean,
it's like a compound, not really like which I guess that kind of is like Shawshank.
Yeah, and I think
I'm thinking Green Mile where they're like restricted, but that's death row. So like a general prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think that I'd want to try to aim some like kind of like emotional stuff in his direction. That's why I said like the Shimi reveal would be a big one for him. Like, but I'm trying to think of some of the other emotional stuff, like good emotional like moments. I guess.
I mean, Jake dying.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Bring him in early and have him do. Yeah.
No, I was thinking. See, that's why I say pick one. I was thinking when Jake sacrifices himself at the end.
Yeah.
In book 7.
Yeah. And then the oi reactions.
The oi lament.
I mean, I don't think there's any necessarily bad places for him to go.
Dude, could you imagine Darabont doing Shardik?
I thought about that actually. There's part of me that's like, well, I guess I can't say that he hasn't done big things because the Behemoth and the Mist is maybe one of the biggest things we've ever seen. So maybe that is actually not a bad pick.
You imagine giving Darabont all of Door 3 with Jack Mort?
Yeah.
Dude.
He has done some pretty psychotic characters. Dude. With Percy from Green Mile.
Mrs. Carmody.
Of course you're going to bring her up.
I mean, she wants to sacrifice a human child. I mean, it doesn't get much more psychotic than that.
The one that actually killed Andy's wife is pretty evil.
Yeah.
You only see him in like flashes from the other character's perspective. But, I mean, the Warden. He's pretty good at some pretty fucking heinous characters.
There's a lot of evil people in Walking Dead too.
Yeah.
A lot of them, let's be honest, were from the comics, but he invented a couple.
Yeah.
That's what Darabont doesn't get credit for, is that he created a couple characters for The Walking Dead that withstood the test of time.
Yeah. So in that case, Jack Mort, that whole third door would be pretty incredible.
Right?
Shardik, I mean, because again, once I think of the Behemoth, which is one of my favorite things.
Give him Detta.
Yeah.
Detta and no Detta?
I mean, I could always go too soon and say, is there any suicides that we can cover in the series? We know he does that well.
Jeez.
Well, I guess attempted suicides.
I don't use buttons very often on this show, but Tad, come on.
Well, he didn't have any bullets left, so
I know what you're talking about. We don't need to talk about it more. Jeez, Tad.
Which I guess gets into your Charyu Tree in terms of like give him something tragic. Like you
That's why I was thinking Charyu Tree is like that episode where Roland has to make that choice and everything.
Yeah.
And he chooses incorrectly in a lot of people's eyes that he chose the tower over Susan. So
yeah.
Charyu Tree happens. So.
Yeah, Frank
at the same time, he does assume that she's safe until he looks into the glass.
Yeah.
So.
My ultimate hope is that Darabont is inspired by this return from retirement.
Yeah.
And he is no longer retired. So what that actually brings me to my second question of this before we get into the scripts. I'm going to pull the big board up here on the screen. I have removed Salem's Lot because it's out now.
It's officially out.
If Darabont came out of retirement fully, what Stephen King properties that are on the horizon would you...
Billy Summers.
Yeah?
Billy Summers.
Okay, and I know you've been a huge fan of Billy Summers.
Dude, Billy Summers, he'd be amazing at later, too.
So like the Monkey's already being made, so we know Christine is already tagged with the dude that did Hannibal. The Running Man is Edgar Wright.
The Institute has...
Let's see. We know The Life of Chuck.
Yeah.
I'm looking up at the movies first. A lot of the movies, not many of them jump out at me that aren't already...
What about Fairy Tale?
Down, looking at the TV, Carry the Jaunt, the Jaunt with the Mist.
Boy.
Can you imagine him doing the fucking Jaunt?
Oh boy.
Let's see later. Billy Summers, you said. The Talisman we know is already being made by the Duffer Brothers. I'll throw one out there too. We've had 2 filmmakers fail at revival. What if Frank Darabont was like, "Hey, motherfuckers, I'm doing revival.
I got to retire on something." Might as well be the hardest fucking movie ever.
Yeah, I mean, seemingly. But yeah,
I mean, it makes sense why it's hard.
Yeah. You said Fairy Tale. I mean, there's some definitely some decent choices for sure.
Honestly, The Dark Half would not be a bad one for him.
Yeah.
Like the evil twin come to life kind of thing. So what's it called? A pseudonym where you use
like the pen name.
That would not necessarily be a bad one for him to do because he would nail that evil character. We were just talking about how he does evil characters. Imagine that guy.
Yeah.
I forgot his name. Thad Beaumont? Is it?
Yeah.
No, is it Thad Beaumont?
Yeah.
Hey, look at me.
I'm gonna throw a little curveball at you.
Throw a curve.
It's not up here yet because
I suck at hitting curves.
I don't think we've necessarily got any announcements on any of these yet. What about Danny Coughlin's Bad Dream? Nothing from You Like It Darker has been signed that we know. That nothing's been announced from that book yet. So
with that OCD cop, 17.
Because that's the MVP of that book, right?
Oh,
like,
so good.
I mean, The Answer Man is really good as well. Rattlesnakes was good.
I didn't really hate any of those.
No,
stories,
I loved them all, but I think the top shelf ones for me are Danny Coughlin's Bad Dreams, The Answer Man, Rattlesnakes probably are the ones that really jump out at me as like probably the MVP. So I think like just again, it's Frank fucking Darabont, so let's shoot it high and just say Danny Coughlin's Bad Dream.
That's not a bad one either because that's ready to go. Like that's a crime drama too.
Yeah, there's not much you have to adapt there. I mean, you really do. I hate when people say that because turning a novel into a screenplay is a lot of work, but it's
especially
like sometimes they're easier than others. It's not all of them are Gerald's game where it's like, how the fuck am I going to do this?
Yeah, especially one of the big problems with Danny Coughlin's Bad Dream is you got to somehow find a way to tell the cop's backstory and what the cop's thinking and everything.
Yeah.
That's all internal. He doesn't have someone to talk to,
Yeah.
And
you'd have to expand the partner, but even that, he's hiding a lot from his partner.
Yeah, because it's not really a partner.
Yeah, which then gets into...
She's local, he's not.
Yeah, which gets into the Darabont Shawshank thing with you actually have the narrator.
Yeah.
So, which one of my favorite behind-the-scenes thing is that he basically watched Goodfellas every night when going to bed because he was so worried because narration is often really shitty in movies.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, Goodfellas did it right, so let me just fucking basically watch Goodfellas every fucking night and I'll get it through my brain of how I'm going to execute my narrators. So, in this case, he can watch Goodfellas and he can watch his own movie and watch Shawshank and get an idea on it there. So,
Andy Dufresne was my friend.
But yeah, that also kind of surprises me because I haven't even thought about that till just now. But You Like It Darker's been out now for a second, and there's been no announcements for anything. So was it back in May 21st? So yeah, we're talking some time. I mean, versus like what was it? Fairy Tale or
Holly.
Was it Billy Summers? Which one was it that got signed to a a deal before it even got published.
Wasn't it Billy Summers?
I think it may have been Billy Summers, yeah. So, and I don't think that was the only one either. I think there's been a couple in the last, in the time we've been doing the show, that have come out where the film things were sold before it came out. I know historically Steven Spielberg bought the rights to The Talisman before it was published. So, it's just surprising because as fast as King Stuff's been snapped up recently, if anything from You Like It Darker has been purchased, we have not had any announcements on it yet. So, very interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that till just now. So, but that leaves us with jumping on into the Glenn Mazzara screenplays. Let me get back to the Palaver screen there. Yeah, so you read them for the first time. I read them back in the day. Just for context, this did get shared with me back when they were still potentially going to happen. I believe they were canceled in December, and I want to say I got these emailed to me back in October of 19. So
2019.
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah.
2019. And then they were canceled in late December of 2019. I believe it was one of the last things we had to cover on our year-end bash.
It was like a wrap-up, like, that's a great way to end the year.
Yeah, that Mazzara's, it wasn't getting the green light from Amazon. So I did reread them, of course, but just we'll go through both of them because right now also the reason I circled back to this because I had kind of forgotten about them a little bit. But ultimately, Mazzara himself released the first one officially. So,
yeah.
Of course, it reminded me that, I still have those. So send them over to Peter.
Yeah, I didn't want to read them back then just in case if something got picked up and everything like that. And then when it got canceled, it was like, nah, it's too painful.
Too painful, yeah. So just first 10,000-foot view, what are your thoughts?
It's interesting. Like there's a couple big changes, obviously, to characters. And one really big change is adding a second storyline. The Gilead stuff is fascinating to me.
Yeah, which is Stephen Deshane.
Stephen Deshane conducting investigations. Where's my son? He's run off and everything. Yeah. Are you going to send people after him? No, we got this issue, this crisis going on, and we got a prisoner of war. We got to interrogate him, and he's dealing with his wife and the fallout from Roland, basically becoming a gunslinger way too early. So that's the first thing that jumps out at me is like, oh shit, we get to see Gilead.
Yeah,
a lot of it in both episodes, not just one, not just like, it's starting off. Okay, now we're going to go to Magus, and now Gilead's
done. Yeah,
no. Episodes 1 and 2 are heavy with Gilead stuff.
The tail end of episode 2 had a scene with Gabrielle visiting court.
Yeah.
And then you end up seeing that Stephen is seeing it from afar and talking about kind of desiring to like maybe try to reconcile
with
her
and reconcile and everything. Yeah.
So I know you're right. And just as a reminder, that would have been Bronn from Game of Thrones as Stephen Deshane.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We covered all that back in the day. Bronn the sellsword. Was with Tyrion, then later Jaime.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the actor playing Stephen Deshane.
Yeah.
So
you said Bronn, and I went to Bran the Broken.
I
was like, wait, what the fuck? That's a weird casting.
We casted a 12-year-old to play.
They casted a paralyzed kid. What the hell? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah, no, Bronn.
Bronn. Yeah, the Tyrion's boy.
Yeah, and later mostly Jaime's actually. As you go through the show, he's with.
Jaime a lot longer.
Yeah, he's with Tyrion for a bit, and then he ends up with fucking Jaime. Never Cersei apparently, because there was behind the scenes nonsense there. But ends up with Jaime a good chunk of the show until that dragon battle is pretty much when he's like, "All right, I'm done with you.
I'm going to go retire now.
See you guys. I dragons are where our partnership ends." So
that's where I draw the line.
Yeah. So just as a reminder, that is Stephen Deshane. That is a big change. Also there's more coffin hunters. It's a bigger group.
Not just 3.
It's not just 3.
Yeah, it's a whole posse.
One of them gets killed.
Yeah.
So the overall thoughts. What if these had moved forward? What do you think overall? If these were what we were getting, how do you feel about it?
It's interesting because also not only the coffin hunters were expanded, but Roland's Quartet is expanded also to include women and everything. So
yeah, one of them's Jaime's a female in this.
There's
script.
2 females.
And then there's another one, Eileen, which I can't remember. Is she invented or was she in Went Through the Keyhole as a character?
Don't remember. I don't know. Jamie's with him and Winston.
No, not with him, but I believe Eileen may be mentioned somewhere else.
Oh, is there?
As just someone that's in the whatever, maybe I'm just fucking crazy. But
I mean, we already know that you are, so there's no doubt about that.
But yeah, overall, I mean, because I remember reading it back then, like I was certainly excited because it's like I also would say I was grading on a curve because it's like, yeah, we had just had the movie. This seemed a lot more true to the movie. I do think as much as I'm a book 4 fan, I was always a little bit weirded out by starting with book 4. It seemed like a weird starting point to me.
It's interesting that you say that it starts with book 4 because the first
it seems like
whole
book 1.
bunch of episode 1 is Brown,
yeah,
Zoltan, and book 1.
Yeah, so he does actually merge.
But what he did is he just lifted Brown and Zoltan and just dropped them into the start of book 4.
And
because Roland's he's chasing Mautrin out of Gilead.
Yeah,
is the thing, and so chasing
through
him
a desert as well,
chasing him out through the desert.
But he doesn't have it on screen.
And
it's conveyed in the text of the script saying the man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed, but it doesn't say like title, so that means that it wouldn't have been shown on screen. He's just telling the filmmakers that. So that's interesting because we've heard Flanagan basically say like, yeah, it's going to be on screen. Like, you'll see those words.
Start. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so it's kind of a weird thing because it is younger Roland. Like this is, I'm blanking on his name that had played Roland in the pilot. And then later on when he did that podcast where he kind of like told everything, he basically said that they would have recasted Roland once they jumped to the
Sam Strike.
Yeah. Tom Taylor was stuck in my head. That's Jake Chambers from the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would have been younger, but you would have seen Zoltan, and then it was kind of an interesting way they built it up because you have like Roland going through all this stuff, and then later you see the quartet following him, and you see them like find Brown's hut, and they run into Zoltan, and like it's kind of interesting
they
how
find the remains of Brown because he has a fucking grisly end.
Yeah,
that's not pleasant at all.
Yeah, indeed. Also, I want to note this first page of the first script said 5th revision, and it was updated on June 15th, 2018, or June 25th, 2018. So it's kind of interesting. It had a lot of revisions on it, which makes sense because that was actually when they shot. The second episode was the one they weren't going to shoot unless they got a green light. So probably would have had some revisions done to it as they went. So, but yeah, open up with some book 1 stuff. We get a Tahine, the abandoned campsites, and even a version of the opening line in the action lines, but it doesn't indicate that it would be seen on screen. A cool image of Roland seeing the stars streaking through the sky, leaving a different colored trails. That was kind of wild to try to imagine.
Yeah.
So it definitely felt like, I don't even know how to explain it, like cosmic, like I don't know. Pretty wild stuff. And then later on, he ends up seeing the same thing, and then Susan sees it as well, right? Yeah. So it kind of shows, because in the first episode, I was like, oh, Roland's like imagining this. And it's like maybe allusions to like the eventual showdown with the Man in Black in the cave or the Golgotha. But then later Susan sees it and it's like, oh wait, this isn't imaginary? Like,
yeah,
that kind of threw me off.
I was looking it up just because it's kind of an unanswered question. Eileen is based off of a character from
Captain David in the chat says was in the comics.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was just looking up.
Yeah, as I say, I knew Eileen was from somewhere.
It's actually Court's niece, is what it says here.
Okay. And then Captain David says combining so many times was shocking.
And it says that she wants to be a female gunslinger, which is unheard of. So it's kind of interesting that both Glenn Mazzar and the comics have both had that same idea.
Yeah, and I wonder if he took some of it from the comics too, right? Because it's like, these filmmakers aren't blind to the comics. So, there's a good chance he read the comics as well, maybe even to get some visual ideas of things, which caused him to maybe bring her in. But then Jamie was gender swapped. And then so you had the main three of the quartet, then you had Jamie and Eileen. So you had 5 members of the quartet that were on Roland's back trail trying to chase him down. And you can jump in with any notes too. I've got some notes and stuff, but you've read them. You've read them more fresh, so I'm kind of intrigued by your thoughts.
Yeah, it's the couple things that I really took down. I don't want to like give all of mine and then just have to react to yours. The one big one is the change to Roland's character. In book 4, he sent west.
Yeah.
He's sent with a purpose to get him out of the way to be safe, and he has to be careful and all these things. In this, he's barreling west. He's tracking, he's chasing, he's
on his
hunting
on his own volition. Yeah. Not sent or approved by anyone.
Also, he is just hell bent on revenge.
Yeah.
He beat the shit out of Court, sacrificed David. They talk about that.
Yeah.
And all just to get his guns to go murder Martin.
Yeah.
And there's this whole fight about, we're not assassins and everything like that with Eileen and Jamie and Cuthbert and Elan and all of them basically saying, like, no, this isn't our way. Like, this is not how things are done. Very, very, very Jedi feel.
Yeah.
Conversations. Not the Jedi way. I got very, very Anakin episode 3 kind of, he's too dangerous to be kept alive.
Yeah.
I got a lot of sense of that, but it's interesting the change to Roland's character and the dynamic with him and Susan doesn't get as fleshed out as early.
Yeah.
As book 4 does. So those are two things that just popping off for me is like, man, Roland's just, dude, he's hell bent on revenge. He's like, fine, stay, go. I don't give a fuck. I'm killing this guy.
Yeah.
But he gets himself in some trouble, so then he's like, okay, I guess it's good to have some backup.
Yeah. All I know is if this would have been made, this would have fucked up the geography that we understand. That brown in the desert, and then you get to Magus, like that kind of...
Yeah, that kind of does messes
up the map a little bit. Don't tell Chris from Australia. Good thing. Oh, I guess good thing this didn't happen, because then he would have had to have updated his map, or done
make a second one.
Do a second one just for the show. Also, we have a really cool shot I have a note for as he's walking in the desert. The sun shoots up quickly over his head, followed by the moon, and then they just cycle back and forth like day and night, flipping like a light switch. I would almost see this as symbolic of how long he's traveling, but it talks about him not making sense of it, so I guess it's meant to be literal.
Yeah.
I don't know how you read that. I thought it was just like, symbolic of it's a long journey, but then he was like confused by it, so it's like, wait.
So he senses it?
Like, what the fuck? What?
Like almost like a fourth wall break a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, Roland, what mushrooms did you eat on the path here? Because you're seeing some shit, man.
Yeah.
So,
well, he does see some shit. You mentioned it earlier, what him and Susan both see. So it's like,
yeah,
there's like some otherworldly stuff there with that. That's kind of out of the norm. But we only get a little bit of that with like the grapefruit. But that's something I also wrote down is like, callbacks. Episode 1 has some great callbacks to the books, but episode 2 feels like there's just like so much going on.
Yeah.
Like when you look at episode 2, you got the scenes in Gilead, the Thinny happens.
Yeah, the Thinny and
we get the
hypnotizing the gunslingers and potentially walking into it.
Almost dying. Yeah. We get the Farson's men mounting up and going to war. Like that's we're done in Magus.
With like a Mad Max fucking truck thing.
Rocket launchers and trucks and
AK-47s.
AK-47s and everything.
Avery has a shotgun, so it's like, okay, he definitely doesn't want guns to be as rare as they are.
I took note of one line where a guy was stroking his rocket launcher like lovingly, like my process. And I'm just picturing some guy with a fucking RPG.
Yeah.
Like, dude, don't stroke it like that. What are you doing? You're gonna set it off. Like,
indeed.
Yes. Like, but it's just like we get so much in these first 2 episodes. Like how many?
Yeah, Latigo is there almost immediately.
Latigo's are there in the second episode.
Because the quartet is basically follows Roland. They find him in Magus. A big showdown happens with the
coffin hunters in some fog.
In the fog outdoors and stuff. They end up killing one of the coffin hunters. The Traveler's Rest is changed up completely.
No Cuthbert or Elan.
It's all Roland.
It's all Roland.
That broke my heart a little bit. It's like, you can't do that.
That's
man.
hard, right?
Yeah, because that's like, you're taking away one of like Cuthbert's most defining things.
What do you mean one of?
Yeah, if not the. I mean, his mouth or the lookout is maybe more iconic than this.
No. I can't allow it. I thought I could, but I can't. That's Cuthbert.
I get it though, because I think if you did play it that way on screen, you were liable to have people put more in Cuthbert than Roland. So
you're building up the character of Roland here early. That's episode 1.
Yeah, because that showed his prowess, I guess. Yeah. Which I guess you hadn't really seen a lot of up to that point. We know he was trained. We know he won his trial stuff, but it's like we hadn't really seen like
you see him kill the mutants. That was the one argument I would have. I thought about the same thing, and I did notate that these 2 episodes are so action packed. But go ahead.
A ton. No, I was just gonna say that I can kind of see why they made it rolling, because I think they really established like what a gunslinger is capable of. And doing that with your main character makes a lot of sense. And ultimately, he hadn't really even connected with his quartet yet. Yeah. I don't even know if at that point does he even know the quartet's on his trail yet.
No, he goes from the Traveler's Rest to the square, dances with Susan.
Yeah.
Sees Martin. They see him dancing with Susan. He takes off after Martin. They take off after him. And then he almost kills them.
Yeah, then the fog fight. Yeah. There's almost friendly fire. Also, Rhea's played very innocently to start. Peter's having physical reactions here. Am I wrong though? The way it's written, she's very normal for a majority of the scene. It's not till the very end that it all fucking flips and you start to realize like, shit.
Yeah, I think he's
like
going, I think he's going for a whole like she seems very pretty scorpion stab.
And she seems very grandmothery.
Yeah.
Is what I would say until the scene flips on its head and then suddenly it's like, oh god.
Oh, she's a witch.
I mean, we all know, right? Because we're sitting there waiting for it's fucking Rhea. He also goes a little bit further.
Well, see, someone like my wife wouldn't though.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's great writing for that. It's like oh, this is just like a homely woman, of the town, and she's the one that the motherly, crone up on the hill, and they call her the Coos, and okay, that's her little nickname, and you go there when you're becoming a woman, and oh my god, what's she doing? Ah!
And I will say, there's a lot more of the examination than I thought we would ever see on screen.
Yucky.
I kept waiting for it to just like fade out and like give you the illusion of what was going to happen, but then, no, there's not a lot of. I mean, I'm sure it would have been shot like gracefully and like tactfully, but it definitely makes you uncomfortable. Like, which is what is what he's trying to do, right?
There's the question with Amazon recently is tactfully and tastefully something that they know what that means after watching The Boys for 4 seasons.
Yeah, and it's Amazon may not care, but I'm just saying.
I don't think they care. They produce The Boys for one. There's several others as well on Amazon that are like that.
Don't you just love getting a glass of milk and watching The Boys?
I love milk. Don't you dare ruin it for me.
I'm not doing it. He's doing it.
You brought it up. Technically, I brought it up, but you brought up the milk and him. So.
Oh, man. I also love that during the Brown and Zoltan stuff, Brown doubted him being a gunslinger because of his age.
Yeah.
So there was some adjustments being made because I mean, he doubted him being a gunslinger in the story, but it was more of that gunslingers don't really exist anymore.
He's just like, yeah, sure, whatever
it's
you
like,
say,
yeah,
bro.
whatever. But this, it's like, you're like 14. Like, there's not. They did age him up. I think he's probably closer to 16 or so.
And they would have to, obviously, because you can't have a 14-year-old having sex. But is he going to? Yeah. Judging by the end of the episode 2, where they're like, oh, they're riding. We got to warn Gilead. It's like,
what?
Magus.
Yeah, what's going on?
What about all the stuff in Magus?
Yeah. Let's see. A lot of the Brown and Zoltan stuff is straight from the book too, dialogue wise. Like it is like word for word taken straight from the book. So I think a lot of people would have definitely loved that. Brown is then possessed by Flag, gets his hand burned mighty nice. Then he attacks Roland. Roland tells Flag to leave him alone, but has to kill him. So that's a whole different change from Mr. Brown.
That's gruesome.
It is quite gruesome.
There's a line that stood out for me in that is that while he's standing there with his hands in the fire, a piece of flesh falls off and sizzles in the pot.
It's real fun. That'd be a fun one to watch with him.
Is it? Is it fun, Ted?
Also, a big note I had, the small folk are being hostile to Stephen and the gunslinger because they're seen as hiding in the castle while the people are being slaughtered.
Yeah.
That's kind of an interesting, because I think that's added, because I don't think King really conveys that. I don't know enough about the comics, but like this idea.
It does come up in the books.
Not like this to where it's like, you're all
not open.
Like,
you wouldn't say it to their face.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as I think of like the movie V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
You don't talk bad about the government in public. But when you're home alone, but then as things go along, things change.
Yeah.
But you kind of get the feeling with like Hacks the Cook and everything like that, like there is no love lost between the gunslingers and the common folk.
Yeah. Captain David says episode 1 felt like they were trying to squeeze in too much. I started to get bad movie vibes, and I think there were some things that concerned me about both episodes. In retrospect, I think I had some reservations back when I read them in 19. But there was part of me that was like, still like it's close, like it's more good than bad. So I'm whatever. But like when it ended up not getting picked up, of course we were all heartbroken and stuff. But there was a slight part of me that flashed back on some of what I read here, and I'm like, there were some choices made that are maybe better not having been made. I guess
I'm the same. I'm the same with Captain Davidman here. I'm of the mind, and I made a note of it, just like the different things that were done in 2 episodes. Okay, we're talking about one of the longer books in the series.
Yeah.
And in 2 episodes.
I don't think it would have been completely done yet, because he had talked about that the entire first season was basically the 4th book. But I'm wondering if to add some action in, you were going to add some actual battle scenes with Farson's people and and the gunslingers, and maybe I wonder if he would have looped into where first season would have included like Jericho Hill. I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing, is like we're looking at them talking about that it's book 4. We're telling the story of book 4.
Yeah.
And for us, okay, when you look at the context of that, what I'm saying is that book 4 is a meaty book. Yeah. And for us to already have the encounter with the Thinny, Latigo's men leaving, the showdown of the Traveler's Rest, the dance where Roland and Susan being proved honest, the confrontation with the coffin hunters outside of the that's, and then
there's a lot.
There's even Jonas. This is a little scene, but it's still a big one. Jonas goes back to talk to Rhea. That doesn't happen until, I don't think that's even happened in our book clubs yet. And we're over 50% done with the book.
But I will give credit, though. He's only going back to Rhea to use the ball to figure out who Roland is. Yeah. Which is kind of an interesting...
Instead of riding the back trail, it's a change.
Yeah. And ultimately it turns into a cool thing, because it's like Rhea's like, this isn't a fucking errand boy. You can just have it do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like,
it's sentient.
It'll show me what it wants to show me. But there is Mazzara does a good job throughout both episodes, because ultimately what it comes down to is you just need a lot of tension. And I think that there's tension even with friends. Like, I think even the Quartet and Roland, there's a lot of tension, because that's what makes things interesting, right? If everyone's getting along, you get bored. You're like, what the fuck am I watching this for?
No, you're not wrong, but the thing is that there's not a scene that's not, in these 2 episodes. It's and this is what I told you my problem was with Dexter the first season I watched, is that it was, oh my God, every single second of every single episode. You got to give audiences a chance to breathe. Even Breaking Bad, which is a show that keeps people on edge, has those scenes that are not you're gripping the edge of your seat because, oh my God, Walter's going to die.
I will say, in his defense for the pilot, is you got to write those differently, because you've got to catch not only audiences,
as many fans as you can,
but you also got to catch the studio.
Yes,
that's your sales pitch essentially. So the second episodes, though, is where I kind of start to wonder, there were some things there where I'm like,
right, and that's where honestly majority of my concerns would have come in, is the second episode. The first episode, if you ended where you ended, which is
where a lot of listeners may actually, that's all they're familiar with, because the second one never got released, which again, I also mentioned at the very beginning, there was 4 or 5 revisions on the first script, because they actually shot that script. The second script only had 1 or 2 revisions, so I wonder if the reason that Mazzara hasn't released that one is because it wasn't as close to ready for filming, which means that it's probably not the best thing for people to read. So I kind of wonder if that's why he only released 1, because I think if both of us just read 1, we'd be a little bit happier, not entirely 100% like we are Flanagan excited, but I think we both would have been happy. The second episode brings up some things where you're like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Well, the first episode ends with him seeing Martin disappear into the smoke and getting captured, basically. And then you're going to have the whole thing with the sheriff to start the second episode. Do I have that right? That's where that... Or do we have a little bit more of the... I'm trying to remember.
Oh, shoot. I thought I had that tab open somewhere.
I got it right here. I'm just kind of breezing through it there real fast.
I think I must have lost mine. I closed that tab on accident.
Yeah, they're basically captured at the end of the first episode. So you start off the second episode with the whole, confrontation with Sheriff Avery and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, things are going to calm back down. No, they ramp right back up to 11.
Yeah.
For the entire episode.
Almost turning into a shootout there with Avery until he racks his shotgun and says, I'm going to fucking send y'all out of town if you don't
I'm going to send y'all to the clearing at the end of the path if y'all don't fucking calm the hell down.
Yeah.
But then that's where I'm talking about is, like, we go straight into, like, there's a little bit of a lull in this episode where Roland and his quartet argue forever, it feels like.
Yeah.
And then Jonas goes up to Rhea, but aside from that, it's nothing but action again, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of action for sure.
So, I that's my thing. Oh, that's what I'm forgetting.
Which
it's
even goes with what Captain Damon was saying, though, is that's where it almost feels movie-ish, because the movie kind of felt like that, too, where it's like some of the magic of the Dark Tower, I think most of us would agree, is sometimes just those campfire scenes. Not where some big thing is happening, but where just Roland, Susanna, Eddie, they're all sitting around just enjoying each other's company. Like, something happened earlier, but it's like sometimes those decompressing scenes are some of our favorite scenes. Like, when you say Dark Tower to me at a random, the first thing that's going to come to mind is the quartet around a fucking fire, not fighting Shardik or Blaine or like, no, it's around a fire, enjoying each other.
I picture when you said the Dark Tower and the quartet, what I picture is them walking down the road together.
Or that too. For me, it's the campfire thing. Maybe even Eddie's even carving the key, but it's just like those are kind of the images that come to mind for me immediately. Now, yes, shortly thereafter, things like Blaine and big things come to mind, but it's like for me, like the heart of it, for me is those quieter moments where you could see the characters.
Journey.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so, and you don't really have a lot of that here in either of these episodes. It's, which I get, like, some might even argue you probably can't have a lot of scenes like that. There is no
journey in book 4.
Yeah, there really isn't.
He's not there yet. He hasn't. At the very end, he gets the quest from the grapefruit that I have to save the tower.
Yeah,
and everything like that. So that's where it's like, that's his mission. That's what he's doing. That kind of thing. And look at what he sacrificed to get there, to that first step onto the road. With Agatha and everything like that, onto the road. For Roland. But it's just like, in this, it doesn't feel like there's a direction except that he wants revenge.
Yeah.
But we have so much other stuff going on. I mean, we're not even covering the stuff that's going on in Gilead.
Yeah.
Like, we're just talking about Roland and Magus right now, but there's still stuff going on in Gilead that we have to talk about. It's like, Gabrielle and Steven have this intense scene and everything like that. And it just, for me, what I'm saying is, like, I understand you want to catch people. It's early in the show, first couple episodes. You want to catch them, but it's like, you still have to establish things first. Yeah. And that's what I'm wondering is kind of missing here, because, like, Breaking Bad, Walter's not cooking meth by the end of the first episode. Yeah. That's my equivalent here. You got to ease the audience into it. You got to build the story. You got to build the tension and stuff like that. You can't just, hey, here's the deep end, swim. Yeah. And I wonder if that, maybe Dave Min is saying kind of the same thing, bad movie vibes, that they rush those things. They don't build the characters. You don't have the character development. You don't have the plot developed either. Yeah. And so that's where I will say there's a lot of plot development, though, and I think that's where you even mentioned, like, the extended conversation with the quartet in the second episode. I think that a lot of that's good world building. Now, yes, maybe it drags on a bit, but it's like in those conversations, though, you're establishing a lot of things like what do gunslingers do and not do? What is what is Gilead face? Like, there's a lot of world building that he kind of throws in that section. I kind of wonder if he could have pieced that out to where it wasn't all just one fucking scene. Yeah. But there's two schools of thought. Some people are more like try to stretch it out and drop it in other places. Other people are like, you know what? Exposition sucks. Dump it all in one fucking thing so it's all and then it's done. And it's there. Like, that's it. And I can move on with the story. Exactly. So maybe that's where he was coming from. But yeah, that scene does kind of drag on a little bit. Yeah. But from the nerdy side of me, though, it's like, cool, it is building out stuff that we kind of know, but that an audience would need to know. But and again, I do want to be fair that the second one probably hadn't been revised as much. That was definitely not shoot ready, I don't think. I think he probably would have done another pass or two on that and revised it a bit. So we are potentially being critical of maybe a little bit above a rough draft on the second episode. I also want to go back to the first episode. One of the slow mutants had a giant insect eye and was swinging a hatchet. There was some fucking grisly ass imagery that he came up with here. Like, we talked about Brown when the quartet comes into Brown's hut. He's maggot covered. His body's maggot covered. Yeah. And Alan has a psychic vision, seeing what happened.
So, and then I have a note here. Then we're at Rhea's hut. Rhea seems agreeable in this scene, and then it ends as she starts saying, "Let's get started." So again, Rhea's played very slow.
Yeah.
Which I can't say that King didn't do himself, because I think that it's easy for us to like on rereads to be like, and I think even in the book club we may have actually spoiled a little bit, because I think we called her a witch pretty early on. But as we were reading it though, I kept thinking to myself, "Oh God." They're not really saying that she's a witch. I think we but we had already kind of said witch, so we may have slightly spoiled, because like maybe it's a little bit more of a slow reveal for King too. But we all know that
you kind of get the vibe from her that she's a witch. The first after that first scene with Susan is like, she puts a spell on her. Yeah, kind of thing. It's like kind of hard to hide that and everything, but. No, I get what you're saying is like, with the exposition and like you got to world build and everything like that. I just wonder if it was a little too much, too heavy. Yeah. Like, yeah. And this goes back to one of the things that I think we had this conversation. I don't know whether it was on Dark Tower Palaver or on Geekery Abides. It's like, there's the thing where people are like, God, you remember when television shows used to be able to put out 23 episodes every year? Yeah. And they didn't have massive 3-year breaks and everything
now
like that.
It's 3 years for an 8-episode
season. For
an
8 episode, and they're like, God, it's such shit. And I'm just like, well, and I made the argument. It's like, yeah, but go back and watch Buffy. They use the same sets. They use the same places over and over and over again for 23 episodes. Yeah. They're not shooting, like, example, The Boys, all these different locations, all these different places and everything like that. Yeah, there are some reoccurring places and stuff. But here's where, for this show, what I'm looking at is, like, maybe this would have been better off if it had more episodes to flex into. Yeah. Now, granted, we don't know
what the plan was.
What the format was. It was never picked up by Amazon even. Yeah. Amazon requested the plot. The pilot. The pilot. Requested the pilot. He wrote the pilot. He revised the pilot. There's the pilot.
Filmed the pilot as well.
Filmed the pilot. Yeah. And Amazon took a look at it and they went, nah, no thanks. Yeah. So it just makes me wonder if maybe that's one of the problems that we have with television shows, is that what you're saying here is that there's too much jammed in. I'm also going back. We had the conversation last week on Geekery Abides. Best television episodes, which, by the way, you're still a bastard for making me do that, and refusing to do a top 10 movies. That's wrong. But I look at episodes. The one episode that made my list that was a pilot was Supernatural. You got no answers, none. Yeah, you got a breadcrumb of world building. Yeah. And then that's the point of the show, is to world build. Yeah. Through the episodes, through the seasons and everything like that. And I wonder if that's kind of lost to television now.
Now you just got to start.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just going to get canceled.
Like Lost, right? Like Lost starts with the plane crash.
You didn't know what the fuck was going on with Lost for 7 seasons, right?
True. It didn't end with the pilot.
Yeah, no one knew what was going on with Lost. But no, there are shows like that where they're canceled so early. I mean, I just saw a thing today on social media.
Show.
That 90s show is canceled after what, 2 seasons?
2 seasons, yeah.
It's like
it's Netflix though.
That's true, which is why we don't want Dark Tower on Netflix.
No. If Mindhunter can't make it, what chance does anything have?
And that's the thing is, like, these shows that want to tell a story that if I'm going to write 23 episodes, I need to be able to flesh stuff out, and I need to be able to take the time to tell a story. Yeah. It almost seems like streaming doesn't want that anymore. Yeah. They don't want those television shows.
Okay, even if you're going to do 8 to 10, 12, 13 episodes, which has been the thing ever since basically HBO did 13 episodes back in the day. It feels like everything's either been that or lower since then. But here's my only argument, though. 3-year breaks is bullshit. These fuckers need to just get on. If they need to be able to do their 8 episodes in fucking a year, that's totally understandable. Because you're talking sets and stuff about like Next Gen, some of these other shows that did 23, 25, whatever. Fine. But writers that just need to write these things, they can do it in a year, man. Like this 3-year something wait between fucking seasons is ridiculous.
We counting the 3 years right now for seasons? Because we do have a strike
Well, even outside of the strikes and
outside of the
COVID,
strikes, yeah.
Like there's just these things where it's just like, okay, cool. It's taken as long, if not longer, sometimes for a next season as it takes to make a fucking movie. And there's times you're getting movie sequels in the same time you're getting the next season of a show, and it's like Stranger Things has almost become a parody because it's like those kids are all 25 now. Like
it's what they used to talk about with like Saved by the Bell, or Dawson's Creek. It's like you got 35-year-olds playing high schoolers, kind of thing.
Yeah, and Captain Davidman says, I can see Amazon execs watching the pilot and being very confused and overwhelmed, and I can see that too. And that's where I'm like, I do kind of wonder, and even wondered this back in 19 before it even got no green light. I kind of wondered, like, I love Book 4, but is Book 4 the right move to start? Like, I don't know, man.
I still think that Book 1 is the best way to get this series off the ground.
I
because
agree,
it's simple. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed him.
Yeah.
Why is he following him? What does he want?
Yeah.
2 questions. It's really simple to build from that. And I think that's the problem, is that maybe if you drop it right in the middle, which I understand trying to go like chronological.
I get that, but it's like, even like, and I say this about it, it's like both times now it has fucked it up on their adaptations, because it's like King intercuts. There's a fucking reason for that. He's one of the best storytellers of our generation. Why are you fucking splitting it and going, I'm going to do kids and then adults? That's fucking stupid. These stories are written to interchange.
Go together.
And King put Book 4 as the 4th book for a fucking reason. Yeah. Maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe you need to understand Roland's Terminator qualities before you get his backstory to figure out why. Because I feel like there's just an element would be lost if you read Book 4 first, understood Roland from that embryonic stage, and then you get into Book 4 and stuff. It's like, I understand. Like his world died.
Yeah.
He lost Susan. Yeah. He lost his mom. Like all that. Like it suddenly turns into
murdered his mom.
It turns into a thing where it's like all of the mystery and allure that Roland had for us as readers is kind of gone. It's like,
I got a perfect example for exactly what you're talking about. How bad would John Wick have been if we had watched John Wick become an assassin?
Oh yeah, terrible.
It would have been a terrible movie.
Yeah.
No one gives a fuck about that. There's 5 others like that came out in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
But why did John Wick become so enthralling to so many people?
Yeah.
Because you started when he was done.
He was done, and everyone knew who he was.
Everyone knows who John Wick is.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
All I did was kill his dog and steal his car. Do you know whose car you stole?
Yeah.
That's John Wick. And the look on his face.
Well, the kid is the only one that doesn't see
that's right. He's like,
the dad does, because he calls like the mechanic.
The
and
mechanic. He's like, why did you strike my son? And he's like, he stole John Wick's car.
You see his reaction.
He's like, and like that. And I think that right there, that's the Roland treatment that we need. Is the John Wick
within
treatment.
the first episode or 2, you're seeing him massacre Ludd or Tull,
and you're just like, oh my god.
Yeah, like, and that there with that, then it causes mystery.
Yes.
And then suddenly it's like, oh shit, this guy that just massacred a town just found a fucking 12-year-old boy that's from our world, seemingly. Like there's things where you just bring up questions for people,
but I don't hooked us into the novels.
Yeah, and I don't think those mysteries are the same kind of. It would lead to the same kind of confusion that kind of what Captain David's saying, and I can kind of see.
I see where he's coming from.
And I remember thinking that in 19 when I read these, where I'm just like, yes, this would be better than what we got with the movies. This is a lot closer to the books. I love Book 4, but this isn't all. This
isn't where we started.
This isn't all the way there to the book. This isn't like a massive swing from like the movie wasn't very, very true to the books. This isn't a massive swing where it's like so. It's kind of like. On a scale of 10, this is maybe a 7 out of 10 for authenticity to the books. Yeah. There's changes there, but I do think it's very authentic to the book for 70% of it, which is a lot. But it kind of made me wonder structurally, like, is this really going to work if you tell all this backstory stuff first? I just wonder if you kind of take the wind out of the sails of Roland a little bit.
You take the mystique away.
Yeah,
and that's what I cannot believe that I never thought of it. But you talking about the Terminator aspect of Roland being gone because you're telling his backstory first. Dude, it's that John Wick is the best example. You would ruin John Wick if you told his story the way that they were trying to do here. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. That's what I'm going to take away from these scripts is like, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. There's a lot of stuff that was said that I'm like, oh, hey, Leo pointing at it.
Yeah, dude.
There's a ton of Easter eggs and stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot. And some of it's even in the descriptors, which makes me wonder if it would even be on screen for us. But some of the stuff it's direct lines straight from the book. We even see
beans, the magical fruit. It's like, hey, it's Zoltan.
Stephen even says the lines from book 5, the questions.
Yeah. Do you seek Aiden's succor?
Yeah,
because
he says that to the people that are like screaming at him, saying, "You guys are fucking cowards hiding in your castle and stuff."
He's like, then he puts them in their place, so you kind of get that. See, that's good world building to me.
Yeah.
But I, man, you really like turn this on my head, and I'm like really against these episodes now because of what has I've realized. I realized here on the episode, I didn't have this in my research notes, is that. Damn, if you take the mystique away from Roland, you kind of ruin that character, don't you?
Yeah, and so when we ended up, I mean, again, I was heartbroken as everyone because, like, I kind of thought this would be the last chance for a long time, like decades maybe, because it just seemed like everyone was so gun-shy from the movie. So I was bummed that this didn't happen, but, you know, once I was able to get over that initial sadness, there was part of me that's like, I don't think starting at book 4 is right, so I'm almost glad in a small way that this didn't pan out, because, and even when listening to that podcast with him where he breaks down his whole plan for the whole thing, it definitely sounds like he went through, he studied these books, he understood a lot about them, and he would have, the plan he had, I think would have ended up being decent. You know, I don't know if it would have been like Game of Thrones level, like world changing, potentially massive hit, but I think it would have been incredible for us fans.
Absolutely.
But I do think that what Flanagan has said is he's probably a lot closer to authenticity. He's probably closer to a 9 out of 10, you know, from what he's saying. I mean, you know, we don't have any scripts from him, but it's like everything he said gives us the idea
Not yet. No.
Yeah.
Here's my last thought that I'm going to share with regards to this. I think one of the things that can be said is that maybe what Glenn Mazzara did is he took a look at the Dark Tower and he went, okay, what's the best singular story? And that's book 4.
Yes, it is book 4.
And I think that's maybe what he's focused on is
possibly
what is the best story.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what he did, but I'm looking at it from this aspect. What is the best story? But
that's logical.
If you take just book 4, you lose some of it.
I think
there's a build up there.
Yeah, there's a lot that book 4 relies on the 3 books previous, knowing and understanding Roland. Even through like all the blood poisoning and the madness of books 2 and 3, you understand a lot about Rome by the time you get into 4, and then suddenly it's a marvel to be like, oh my god, he's a fucking kid. Like he's
look at this trauma that he went through.
But even before, when you initially meet him in book 4, it's like, oh my god, he's a kid. Oh my god, like, you know, yes, there's like, you could see visions of what Roland will become, but he is also still a kid. There's almost like a belief in good that he probably doesn't have anymore when we see him as an adult. There's just things about him where it becomes such a revelation of like, oh my god, you know. But I wonder when you put that first, now none of that matters, because you just that all becomes meaningless. It becomes like, well, this is the character, and then audiences that have never read it would then just I wonder what we'd be lost by that.
Another striking example is, I said the John Wick one was like my epitome of it, but also another one is the ghoul in the Fallout series. You never did watch that?
Not yet. No, it's not on my list.
The ghoul in the Fallout series is very similar.
Is that what's his name?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's him.
Yes,
it's him.
Okay.
He has a very similar thing. It's like
Walter Goggins.
Yeah, he has like a tragic backstory, and he's like a hard case and everything like that. And I got a lot of Roland vibes off of him. And so I'm like, okay, why is he this way? Because I've already had Roland, but my wife was very intrigued by him. She's like, what happened? Like, he has this and he has that. And I'm not going to say it because I don't want to spoil it for you.
Yeah.
But he has A, B, and C. And how did it all go wrong? And what happened? And you're thinking that it's, scenario A is what happened.
Yeah.
And then it's like, maybe it's not. And so there's like this intrigue with it and everything like that. And that's what makes the character interesting.
And for Roland's side, I just think King knows. And so that's why I said about it. Like, if it gets remade in 27 years, I hope the person has the fucking balls to just make it like the goddamn book, and it cuts back and forth between the kids. Now, yes, that means you got to have 2 full casts the entire time, but I do think that that's truly how you tell that story. Like, the reason it works the way it does in the books is because you are jumping back and forth between adults and kids, and to just isolate that all out, and just like this, like taking book 4 and making it go first, dude, do you not think that King knows storytelling? I wonder that at times with these filmmakers. It's like, do you not think that he knows how to tell a story? Maybe you should just take the hints that he's given you in the book and fucking run with it, man.
Why is that? We've talked about this before. Why is that so hard for some people?
I don't get it. I don't know, man.
And honestly, here let's play devil's advocate. Last thought, and I'm done. And then I'm going to read Captain David's last two messages because I think they're profound. I wonder if a large part of it, we saw it with the movie. I wonder if a large part of it isn't the filmmakers. I wonder if it's the studio. They don't know how to they don't know how to tell a story, but they know how to make money, and so they think, oh, more action's going to make money, less story.
Yeah.
And I know we have examples of that.
Yeah.
A lot of examples of that. So that's all I'm going to say. But Captain David said, yes, if we don't already know Roland, Book 4 has so much less meaning. Season 1 needs to give us Roland and Jake. And I couldn't agree more with both of those.
Agreed. Also, your boy Eddie does get a call out in the second script.
Does he? I missed that.
For the Thinny. It says in season 5.
Oh, yeah.
In season 5, Eddie will say it sounds
Hawaiian.
Right,
he does.
Which I think is genius from the filmmaking perspective, because that's just a note to the sound effects designers of like, hey, here's what you need to make this sound like.
Notate.
But then it's just kind of cool because it's like, not that most of us would ever see the scripts in the normal course of things.
Yeah.
But for us as nerds, we're able to see that to be like, oh my God, season 5, Eddie's going to say this. Like,
yeah,
it's just cool. Like,
sounds Hawaiian, doesn't it?
Yeah. So good stuff. I do enjoy reading them, and I definitely enjoyed the time, hoping for these. But I am glad that we are where we're at right now. Ultimately. So, bring it on, Flanagan. But yeah, good stuff. Go out and read them. I know that, like I said, Mazzara has released the first one out there publicly. You can go give it a read. And some of the criticisms we said here doesn't poo-poo, because there's a lot of good stuff in these.
Oh, a lot of great stuff.
He did his homework for sure.
Yeah.
A decent show, I believe. But I do think there's some things that kind of make me wonder, like, is that the right choice? Normal nerdy shit, like just questioning, like, is that truly the right strategy? And I don't know.
Could this show have worked? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know I've been kind of negative the last little bit of this show, but I will say, could the show have worked? Absolutely, it could have.
Yeah.
Could it have been a great show? Absolutely, could have.
Yeah.
Could it have been in the next Game of Thrones? No.
Yeah, not with what we've seen here.
No.
Not with what we've seen here, for sure. But, good stuff, though.
But again, Game of Thrones didn't become a worldwide sensation until what?
Right away, it didn't. No.
Not until like the end of the first season, maybe into the second season.
Yeah.
It's not until then that it got its footing. It's the same thing with a lot of shows.
Yeah.
Buffy season 1 is one of the worst. Season 2 is a lot better. Season 3 is where it really kicks off.
People need to get their sea legs.
And that's the problem, is that studios and streaming services are not patient
They
anymore.
need to be patient, yeah.
And we don't have that anymore. So it just, you're not watching the show? Great, cancel it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, people aren't watching it because they haven't found their legs yet. Like, you got to give them time.
Yeah. Agreed.
So
yeah, Next Gen wasn't good for the first season and a half, I think, before it really started to how many
shows that lasted more than 10 years? I'll tell you right now, Supernatural was good season 1. Season 2 and 3 kicked off.
I think Next Gen, it almost took 35 episodes before you really started to see.
What about the X-Files?
That one was pretty strong.
There are some shows that start strong. I'm not going to lie. They start off strong and they go.
Yeah, some do.
Seinfeld had to figure itself out.
Comedies are a whole different
beast.
Yeah,
yes.
Most comedies struggle for their first season or so. But that'll do it for this episode. We are out of time. But good conversations, good palaver, definitely. But first of all, on the way out here, if you want to subscribe to us, you can do that on any podcasting delivery service of your choice. You can find us on Spotify, Amazon, all kinds of Amazon Music, Audible, all kinds of podcast places. You can stream us live here over on youtube.com/DarkTowerPalaver, or watch old live streams. You can watch them in the future as well. That's totally fine. You can find the show notes over at DarkTowerPalaver.com. I'll have links for all the articles we covered, as well as those Funko Pops if you want to go pre-order those. They come out on Christmas. And I don't know how that works with Amazon. Do they ship to where it'll actually arrive on Christmas, or I don't know if their delivery people work on Christmas. Either way,
I don't think
that's the release date on those Funkos. And then if you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/DarkTowerPalaver. There are a number of different levels over there. The majority get the Patreon or the Discord server, as well as our monthly hangouts, which again, it will be coming in 6 days from now, where we'll be talking deep dive on Salem's Lot. Then if you want to contact us, Peter can let you know the ways to do that.
Amazon is closed on Christmas and Thanksgiving here in the United States.
Okay, that's what I wondered. I was like, I don't know if I've ever tried to get anything delivered on Christmas, but it's just weird that the release date's Christmas for those. That's why would you pick that? Like,
I don't know.
Do Christmas like Christmas Eve, because then it would have got delivered and then you could put it under your tree. And I don't know how many 8-year-olds are looking for Andy Dufresne.
Or, do December 1st so it can get delivered before Christmas. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, email us at show@darktowerpalaver.com. We haven't had an email for a while, have we?
No.
I just realized that. No jingle. No jingle for you. No email, no jingle. Come back one fortnight. 2 fortnights.
Indeed.
Come back 1 month? Is that... Never mind. Our socials are Twitter @DarkTowerPod. That's @DarkTowerPod. And then our Blue Sky is @DarkTowerPalaver.bsky.social. And then Facebook.com/DarkTowerPalaver. Instagram, DarkTowerPalaver, all one word, no spaces. And then our merchandise, tpublic.com/user/DarkTowerPalaver.
Indeed. And yeah, we'll be back in a fortnight on the 19th of October for our 19th Wizard and Glass Book Club.
Our 11th of the year.
But 19th over.
No, our 10th of the year.
I just love that it's the 19th book club for
11th.
Wizard and Glass, and it's on October 19th. That's awesome. 19s are lining up, so we'll be back for that, as well as, again, a month from now in November, we'll be back for our next roundtable, where we will talk some Father Callahan from the new series.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. But as we always do, we'll sign off by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
Boy. All right, everyone in the chat, thank you all for joining and being part of the conversation. You guys are awesome. We'll be back in a few minutes for Geekery Abides. If you don't listen to that, we'll be back in a fortnight for Wizard and Glass, hopefully for some more Rhea of the Coos.
Come join us on Geekery Abides, top 10 horror movies of the 21st century.
Yes, indeed. See you guys.
Bye.